Chapter 17:02. Boom! A massive explosion once again sounded out as a blinding light shot out from the Sun Elf's body. The golden elf image behind him fused into the Sun Elf's body, causing the Sun Elf to look like a sun and give off boundless golden light. The Sun Elf gripped his sword with both hands and pointed it downwards, sending massive amounts of power into the sword. The golden sword gave off an intense golden light, causing it to look like a golden sword of light, and it gave off an extremely terrifying power. Boom! The Sun Elf gripped the sword with both hands and stabbed it into the ground. A powerful golden light flowed into the ground as a massive ancient golden tree, giving off the aura of countless worlds, appeared behind the Sun Elf. This ancient tree was hundreds of thousands of meters tall, and its canopy covered the sky. Every leaf and branch gave off terrifying power, and the ancient tree gave off boundless golden light, dyeing the heavens and earth golden. The world seemed to be split in half. One half was black and gave off boundless black aura, while the other half was golden and gave off boundless golden light. The two sides intensely clashed, causing people to feel incredibly shocked. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu raised a hand and pressed it down towards the Sun Elf. The countless black ghost soldiers behind him gave off a world-conquering aura as they rushed towards the Sun Elf, seeming as if they wanted to destroy everything. Boom! The Sun Elf raised a hand and pointed out, causing the ancient golden tree to explode out with an intense golden light. Everything in the surroundings collapsed under the terrifying golden light, seeming to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Bang! A shocking explosion sounded out as the two extremely terrifying powers clashed together, resulting in a massive explosion. It was like an energy barrier that spread out, and everything within it was reduced to nothingness. The ground continuously trembled as terrifying auras continuously spread out like floodwaters. A massive gale blew out, causing countless trees to sway and boulders to roll. Even the people on the outside were affected and had to use defensive barriers to defend. After everything settled, a crater that was hundreds of thousands of meters wide appeared in the ground. Zhao Fu stood up, covered with blood, while the Sun Elf was nowhere to be seen. Countless people looked at the scene before them in shock. They could not help but wonder, did that mysterious saint win? Boom! A shocking explosion once again sounded out as countless rays of azure starlight appeared in the sky, and an incredibly powerful might descended. The heavens and earth seemed to tremble in fear as a chaotic and powerful aura flooded the world. A massive azure star giving off an azure light and giving off a massive might slowly descended from the sky, causing the ground to sink. The Emperor's star has descended. Countless people looked at the green star in the sky in shock. That was the Outlander race's supreme Emperor's star, the Emperor's star of all races. Bang! Countless rocks flew out, and a blood-red Sun Elf appeared. His body was covered with green starlight, and he gave off an extremely terrifying aura. The Sun Elf raised a hand and pressed it down on Zhao Fu. Boom! The Outlander Emperor's star exploded out with a terrifying aura and gave off intense starlight, turning into a massive pillar of starlight that gave off world-destroying power as it landed on Zhao Fu's body. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as if a meteor had smashed into the ground. A terrifying shock wave spread out, causing the ground and the surrounding tens of thousands of meters to collapse. A massive shock wave blasted out, and countless rocks and sand flew everywhere. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. Could that holy sun still have the strength to fight after receiving such a terrifying attack? The Sun Elf had used the supreme Emperor's star. Could that mysterious holy sun still be a match for him? Boom! A heaven-toppling ghostly chi flooded out from the ground, inundating everything. The sky became gray, and ghostly chi filled the surroundings. The world seemed to be filled with an eerie coldness, as if it was a ghost realm. A terrifying figure appeared in front of everyone's eyes. A terrifying ghostly flame appeared around his body, and he was half naked, He had long, gray-white hair, and his muscles bulged as violet scales grew out of them. His fingernails grew long and gave off cold lights as a pair of black demon horns grew out of Zhao Fu's head. His forehead split open as a pale white vertical eye appeared, and his mouth became filled with countless fangs as a pair of gray-black wings grew out of his back. His body gave off an ancient, savage, evil, and eerie aura, and the space around him could not withstand his power and continuously twisted. The people in the surroundings once again looked shocked as they looked at that figure. They had never thought that this person would madly fuse the 6 paths demon images into his body. This was simply too terrifying. The Sun Elf's expression was serious as he sensed Zhao Fu's terrifying ghostly power. He felt quite shocked and raised a hand towards the Outlander Emperor star in the sky. Arg! The Sun Elf roared and unleashed all of his power. A terrifying aura exploded out from his body as his body gave off blinding golden light. The ground was unable to withstand that power and continuously collapsed. The Sun Elf gave off boundless golden light as his body slowly rose up and seemed to fuse into the supreme Emperor star. The green Outlander Emperor star seemed to be dyed gold as boundless heaven and earth power flowed into it. An extremely terrifying power spread out from the Emperor star, causing space to continuously collapse as if it was going to destroy the heavens and earth. Countless people felt that power, and they felt as if they had fallen into an icy cavern. Their bodies and souls continuously trembled. Boom, boom, boom. The golden Emperor star exploded out with countless rays of golden light, each containing terrifying power as they shot toward Zhao Fu. It was as if the entire sky had been pierced by the golden light, creating a shocking scene. Zhao Fu's eyes lit up as he looked at Zhao Fu. Facing the countless rays of light, Zhao Fu vigorously pressed against the ground, and a formless energy seeped into the ground. Boom! A massive wave of ghostly chi erupted out of the ground, giving off a terrifying aura as it rushed into the sky, forming a 10,000-meter wide pillar of ghostly chi that gave off ferocious and eerie winds. Countless traces of ghostly chi spread throughout the heavens and earth, seeming to cover the entire world and giving off an extremely cold and eerie aura. Arg! The ghostly chi turned into malicious ghosts, and there were countless of them. They gave off terrifying howls that shook the surroundings, making the entire world seem like a world of malicious ghosts. Clang, 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 clang. However, this was not the end. The malicious ghosts turned into ghostly weapons that looked different. There were sabers, swords, spears, axes, lances, and other weapons. All of them gave off cold lights and gave off an aura of killing. Boom, boom, boom. Under Zhao Fu's control, the dense, ghostly soldiers all aimed at the golden Emperor star in the sky and gave off powerful ghostly power as they shot towards the sky, seeming to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Bang! Chapter 1703. Everything gradually calmed down and the dust settled. A 1 million-meter wide crater had appeared in the ground, and the ground around the crater had been flattened. A layer of the ground had been lifted up, and there were broken rocks and wood everywhere. Outside, trees had been destroyed, rocks were everywhere, and grass was everywhere. The surroundings were deathly silent, as if everything had died. Large winds blew, seeming to cry out in sorrow at the devastation that had just occurred. The people on the outskirts had also been greatly affected, and they were covered with dust and looked quite wretched. Countless people looked at the terrifying scene in front of them in shock, and their bodies felt icy cold as they trembled. This was not something that could be done by a human. It was incredibly terrifying. The starlight that the Emperor star gave off was not as intense as before, and it was now much dimmer. No one could see any traces of the two people, and no one was sure just who had won. The people on the outskirts and viewing platforms felt incredibly nervous as they stared at the crater, waiting for the situation to change. Bang! A massive sound rang out as rocks flew everywhere, and a terrifying figure appeared. There was a ghostly flame around his body, and he gave off an incredibly cold and eerie aura. It was Zhao Fu. Blood leaked out of Zhao Fu's lips, and there were a few wounds on his body. However, they were not very big, and there was some gray blood flowing out. Boom! The dim Emperor star in the sky once again exploded out with a powerful aura, giving off bright starlight, and the Sun Elf's figure appeared at the center of the Emperor's star. A trace of blood leaked out of the Sun Elf's lips, and there were a few wounds on his body. However, he gave off an intense golden light and a terrifying might. The battle was not over yet. Boom! Zhao Fu grabbed at the air, and the Emperor Killing Sword appeared in his hand. A massive, ghostly flame fused into it, causing the Emperor Killing Sword to burn with ghostly flames. A powerful, ghostly power exploded out, and Zhao Fu rushed at the Sun Elf. Boom! The Sun Elf's expression was cold as he vigorously grabbed out, and a golden sword appeared in his hand. The Emperor's star gave off boundless starlight power, which flowed into the Sun Elf's body, causing his body to shine with an intense azure light. With this massive Emperor star power, the Sun Elf rushed at Zhao Fu. Bang! Zhao Fu's sword gave off a terrifying gray sword light that gave off an incredibly cold and eerie power and a massive amount of ghostly chi as it slashed towards the Sun Elf. The Sun Elf slashed out, and an azure sword light containing destructive power and countless rays of azure light slashed toward Zhao Fu. The two swords gave off terrifying power as they collided, resulting in a massive shockwave that blasted out like a wild gale. The two of them were sent flying back several hundred meters. However, in the next moment, the two of them clashed again, leaving powerful streams of light behind them. Bang, bang, bang. Massive sounds rang out as Zhao Fu's sword gave off terrifying sword lights as he slashed towards the Sun Elf. The Sun Elf's sword continuously gave off azure sword lights as it ferociously slashed toward Zhao Fu. The two sword lights continuously clashed, causing sword light to shoot everywhere and sending out massive gales. The heavens and earth dimmed, and the sun and moon dimmed. The crowd watched the battle between the two of them in shock. This was a battle between top-notch geniuses. Moreover, they did not hold back at all and fought with all their might. The Sun Elf directly summoned the Supreme Emperor Star and obtained boundless Emperor Star power. He could change the heavens and earth, and his power surpassed ordinary people's imaginations. His opponent was not simple either. He had a divine bloodline and had fused the six paths demon images into his body. He had reincarnation path power and terrifying ghostly power that could easily destroy anything. Ark! Zhao Fu roared, and a terrifying wave of reincarnation path power entered the Emperor Killing Sword. 6 traces of ghostly chi flowed out and wrapped around the Emperor Killing Sword. An extremely terrifying ghostly power spread out, and Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out. A sword energy containing destructive power slashed towards the Sun Elf. Ark! The Sun Elf raised the sword in his hand and loudly roared as the Emperor Star behind him gave off a brilliant starlight. A massive wave of Emperor Star power flowed into the sword, causing it to give off boundless green sword light that shined in all directions. The Sun Elf vigorously slashed out, sending out a shocking green sword light. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the two swords collided, resulting in a massive explosion. A terrifying explosive force blasted out, bringing with it a powerful gale. Bang! Zhao Fu's body quickly crashed to the ground like a meteor. A shock wave blasted out, causing the ground in the surrounding hundreds of meters to crack. The Sun Elf was forced back dozens of meters. Boom! Zhao Fu crawled up from the ground and pressed his hand against the ground. A massive wave of ghostly chi exploded out, forming 1,000 devils that were hundreds of meters tall. They were covered with muscles and had savage-looking faces, and they gave off powerful auras. Roar! 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 The 1,000 demons raised their heads and roared, exploding out with powerful ghostly power. They turned into powerful rays of light that shook the space around them as they rushed towards the sun elf in the sky. Facing the 1,000 devils giving off terrifying auras, the sun elf raised a hand, and a massive wave of power gathered in his palm. Boom! The supreme emperor star behind the sun elf exploded out with a powerful aura and gave off boundless green starlight. The starlight formed 100-meter-long green swords of light that floated behind the sun elf, giving off a massive sword aura. The sun elf waved his hand. Boom! Boom! The 1,000 green swords of light gave off terrifying sword energy as they shot out incredibly quickly. They left behind green rays of light and gave off shocking sounds. Bang! 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 Explosions sounded out as the azure swords of light gave off terrifying power and pierced through the chests of the evil spirits. The evil spirits exploded and turned into countless traces of ghostly chi that dissipated. Roar! A dragon's roar suddenly sounded out as Zhao Fu appeared behind the sun elf. He raised the emperor-killing sword and gave off an intense sword light as a ghost dragon giving off massive ghostly chi appeared behind him. Zhao Fu vigorously slashed out, and the ghost dragon gave off terrifying power and a powerful aura as it rushed towards the sun elf. Bang! The sun elf was startled and blocked with his sword in front of him, releasing a green defensive barrier. The ghost dragon slammed into the barrier with immense power, causing it to shatter. The sun elf flew back and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Chapter 1704. The sun elf gave off a trace of anger as he raised his sword. The supreme emperor star behind him gave off intense green starlight that flowed into the sun elf's body, and the sword gave off an intense green sword light. The sun elf vigorously slashed out, and a massive green arc of light containing shocking power instantly slashed out. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the two massive powers collided, resulting in a massive explosion. A massive gale was created as sword light and ghostly chi flew everywhere. Zhao Fu rushed in front of the sun elf, and his sword burned with a powerful ghostly flame as he slashed towards the sun elf. Shing! The sun elf blocked with his sword, blocking Zhao Fu's sword. The sound of metal clashing could be heard as sparks flew everywhere. Zhao Fu roared as a massive, ghostly flame flowed out of his body, and a massive wave of power exploded out. Zhao Fu gripped his sword and pressed down towards the sun elf. The sun elf's expression was cold as he slowly lowered his sword, looking as if he was unable to defend against Zhao Fu's immense power. However, in the next moment, the sun elf also roared, and the emperor star behind him once again gave off intense starlight. Boundless emperor star power flowed into the sun elf's body, and a terrifying power flowed out from his body. The sun elf vigorously pushed out, sending Zhao Fu flying back. Boom! The sun elf raised his sword, and the supreme emperor star behind him exploded out with a massive aura, giving off a brilliant green light as he vigorously slashed out. Boom! The starlight from the supreme emperor star formed a massive green ray of light that gave off destructive power and a terrifying aura as it shot towards Zhao Fu, resulting in a massive explosion. Bang! Zhao Fu hurriedly exploded out with powerful ghostly chi, and a six-paths defensive barrier appeared around him. The massive green ray of light slammed against the barrier with shocking power, and Zhao Fu's body quickly crashed into the ground, smashing open a large crater. Ark! The sun elf once again roared, and the supreme emperor star flashed with brilliant starlight, forming countless green orbs of light that gave off immense destructive power as they shot towards Zhao Fu like a meteor shower. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as the azure orbs of light landed on the ground and exploded. Destructive power rippled out, causing the ground to crumble and rocks to fly everywhere. Dust and stones rose into the air. After everything settled, a 10,000-meter-wide crater had appeared, and there were countless smaller craters within it. Everyone looked at the sun elf in shock. He was simply too powerful. With the supreme Emperor Star behind him and boundless Emperor Star power flowing into him, he was simply invincible. Even though that person was powerful, facing the Sun Elf, who had of Emperor Star power, of course he would lose. Of a person, it was impossible to defeat of a peerless genius with an Emperor Star. However, that person was truly powerful to be able to force the Sun Elf to explode out with such terrifying power. Ordinary people would not be able to do such a thing. At the center of the crater, Zhao Fu was covered with blood as he staggered to his feet. His eyes were filled with fury as he roared towards the sky, shaking the 9 heavens and piercing through the underworld. Celestial mode. Activate. Boom. A shocking explosion sounded out as if something had been shattered. A world-destroying power flowed out from Zhao Fu's body and instantly spread out, causing the ground to be reduced to dust. A sky-toppling ghostly flame erupted around Zhao Fu's body, and massive eerie winds containing destructive power spread out. Grass was blown away, countless trees were uprooted, and countless rocks were sent flying. The temperature of the entire world quickly fell, and it became bone-chillingly cold. The countless people in this world could not help but tremble in fear and look towards Zhao Fu's direction. It was as if this place was covered by a massive layer of dark clouds. Zhao Fu stood in the air, and below him was a massive crater that was tens of thousands of meters wide and 1,000 meters deep. The left side of Zhao Fu's face became crimson red, making him look incredibly savage like a demon. The pale white eyeball on his forehead became rainbow-colored, and at the same time, a thin hole appeared in Zhao Fu's eye sockets, giving off an unimaginably terrifying power. 9 gray rune circles floated out with Zhao Fu at the center, each larger than the last, and they were 30 centimeters apart. The aura that Zhao Fu gave off was like that of a true ghost celestial. The heavens and earth could not withstand it, and they continuously collapsed, twisted, and collapsed. The people on the viewing platforms and in the surroundings could not help but look terrified as they looked at Zhao Fu in the air. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such terrifying power. Was he still human? He was like a ghost celestial. The Sun Elf's expression was quite unsightly as he felt incredibly shocked. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such terrifying power. Ark! The Sun Elf roared and raised a hand. The supreme Emperor Star behind him exploded out with countless rays of green starlight, forming rays of green light that gave off immense power as they shot toward Zhao Fu. The sky seemed to be pierced through. Zhao Fu's eyes lit up, facing the incoming rays of green light. Zhao Fu's expression was cold and emotionless as he slowly raised a hand and aimed at the incoming rays of green light. Time and space seemed to freeze as the countless rays of green light froze in the air. Zhao Fu vigorously grabbed at the air, and the rays of green light turned into countless motes of light and dissipated. It was as if there was a rain of green light, creating a beautiful scene. Ark! The Sun Elf once again roared and unleashed all of his power from the Supreme Emperor Star. The Supreme Emperor Star once again exploded out with boundless green light, making it look like a green sun that illuminated the entire heavens and earth. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the countless rays of green light formed a massive pillar of green light that gave off world-destroying power as it shot toward Zhao Fu, tearing out countless spatial cracks. Zhao Fu was expressionless as he raised a hand towards the incoming pillar of green light. A massive wave of ghostly power gathered in his palm, causing it to give off traces of terrifying ghostly chi. The 9 rings of runes around him came in front of Zhao Fu, which was in front of his palm. They gave off intense gray light and formed a circular shield. Bang! The terrifying pillar of green light slammed against the circular shield with destructive power, resulting in a massive explosion. Countless rays of green light shot out in all directions, causing wild gales to blow. The pillar of green light lasted for a minute or so, and the 9 rings of runes continuously spun, turning all of the power into nothingness. In the end, The pillar of green light gradually became smaller and disappeared, leaving behind a terrifying aura of destruction. Chapter 17:05. The round shield dissipated and the 9 circles of runes returned to Zhao Fu's side. Zhao Fu grabbed at the Sun Elf, and a massive wave of ghostly energy flowed out. Clang, clang, clang. Massive sounds of chains rang out throughout the sky as massive gray chains shot up from the ground, bringing with them terrifying and eerie power as they shot into the sky. There were many of them, and there were at least millions of them, seeming to be able to lock down the heavens and earth. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the countless chains tightly bound up the massive Supreme Emperor Star in the sky. The Supreme Emperor Star gave off terrifying power and continuously struggled. It was a Supreme Emperor Star, so how could it accept being bound? As such, it looked quite furious. The Sun Elf was also bound up. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu in shock. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would be able to forcefully suppress that terrifying Supreme Emperor Star. He really was comparable to a ghost celestial. The 9 geniuses also looked at Zhao Fu in shock. They had always felt that Zhao Fu was hiding his power, and now that they had personally witnessed Zhao Fu's power, their hearts trembled. It was simply too terrifying. Facing the power that Zhao Fu had displayed, the 9 geniuses felt that they were inferior. Even the second-ranked Medusa accepted this reality and did not feel unconvinced at all. Looking at the Supreme Emperor Star and Sun Elf bound up by countless chains, everyone could not help but wonder, is it over just like that? Arg! A massive roar sounded out throughout the sky as the Sun Elf's body gave off boundless blood-red golden light, and an extremely terrifying power exploded out. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the massive Supreme Emperor Star exploded out with a terrifying aura. A massive green aura flame appeared around it, giving off unimaginable power. The countless chains binding it shattered, and the Supreme Emperor Star gave off a massive green aura flame, giving off an aura that seemed to be able to suppress the heavens and earth as it stood in the sky. The countless chains binding the Sun Elf were all broken, and the Sun Elf's body gave off an intense light. Its expression was cold as it looked at Zhao Fu and turned into a ray of light as it flew into the Supreme Emperor Star. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the Supreme Emperor Star exploded out with terrifying power, giving off boundless green light that covered the entire heavens and earth. Space continuously shattered as a massive aura flame flowed out. The cyan aura flame split into 2, one continuously rising while the other continuously falling. The upper aura flame turned into the upper body of an elf, while the lower aura flame turned into the lower body of an elf. A massive aura flame spirit appeared, giving off a terrifying aura. The Azure Supreme Emperor Star was at the center of the aura flame giant's chest. When this aura flame appeared, it created a terrifying storm. The ground was lifted up layer by layer, and countless trees were destroyed. Many boulders shattered, and the sky became azure. Clouds swirled, and the sun and moon lost their light. That extremely terrifying aura spread out like a tide, easily sweeping through the heavens and earth, pulling countless people into a state of fear. Boom! As soon as the Azure Aura Flame Giant was formed, it looked at Zhao Fu with a sovereign's gaze. It gripped its fist and gave off terrifying power as it punched toward Zhao Fu, bringing with it an intense gale. Facing this punch, Zhao Fu did not feel any fear and also gripped a fist. A massive wave of ghostly power gathered in his fist, causing it to give off traces of ghostly chi as he punched out with destructive power. Boom! The two completely disproportionate fists gave off terrifying power as they clashed together, resulting in a massive explosion. A ferocious gale swept out in all directions, destroying everything. The Azure Aura Flame Giant was forced back a few steps, but Zhao Fu did not move at all. The massive impact was dissipated by the 9 gray runes around him. Roar! The azure aura flame giant furiously roared as it gripped its fists and continuously punched out. Terrifying fist energies containing destructive power blasted out, bringing with them massive gales that seemed to be unstoppable. Facing the incoming fist energies, Zhao Fu's expression was cold, and he once again stretched out a hand. A massive wave of ghostly power gathered in his palm, and the 9 gray runes around him once again came before Zhao Fu's palm. They gave off intense gray light and formed a massive round shield. Bang! 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 The massive fist energies slammed into the round shield, resulting in massive sounds and sending out ferocious gales. However, the round shield did not budge at all, and the 9 runes slowly spun, dispelling the massive power. The azure aura flame giant did not seem to believe this and punched out even more ferociously, bringing with it even more destructive power as it slammed into the round shield. Bang! 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 Massive sounds rang out as gales spread out, and the round shield slightly trembled. The 9 runes quickly spun, dispelling the terrifying power. Roar! The azure aura flame giant raised its head and gave a massive roar, causing the entire sky to tremble. A heaven-toppling aura flowed out of its body as it raised its hands and vigorously grabbed at the air. A massive azure aura flame sword appeared in its hands, and it gave off immense power as it vigorously slashed out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as if the heavens and earth had been split in half. A massive sword energy that seemed to be able to destroy everything slashed out like lightning, destroying the ground, space, rocks, plants, and everything else. Bang! The terrifying sword energy split the round shield in half, and Zhao Fu's body was sent flying back and heavily smashed into the ground, opening up a massive crater. A sword gash that was tens of thousands of meters wide and over 1,000 meters deep appeared on the ground, and it gave off traces of destructive power, making people feel incredibly terrified. Zhao Fu coughed up a large mouthful of blood and crawled up from the ground. The azure aura flame giant held the azure aura flame sword and strode toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu's expression was cold as he raised a hand, and a massive wave of ghostly energy flowed out of his palm, forming 6 egg-sized gray orbs of light that floated around his palm. Zhao Fu aimed at the azure aura flame giant and vigorously pressed down, causing a massive wave of power to flow out. Boom! 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 6 massive explosions sounded out as 6 stone doors giving off ancient, cold, and powerful auras appeared around the azure aura flame giant. They were tens of thousands of meters tall and were carved with countless images of ghosts and monsters. They gave off an incredibly powerful might and caused the heavens and earth to fall silent. The stone doors slowly opened as 6 massive, ghostly hands giving off terrifying power and a bone-chilling aura stretched out. They grabbed the azure aura flame giant's hands, legs, body, and head, and vigorously pulled them. Art. Chapter 1706. D1. Countless people stared at this scene with wide eyes. The sun elf crashed to the ground and fainted, unable to retaliate at all. As the person with the most points, he fell to second place, and Zhao Fu took first place. Suddenly, regardless of whether it was in the periphery or on the grandstand, the voices were boiling and reverberating in all directions. Even people far away could hear it and feel the excitement and liveliness here. That person really won. So terrifying. Even I feel so excited. That person is invincible and super powerful. I've never admired a person so much in my life. He defeated the Outlander race's top 10 geniuses by himself. Today, he's destined to ascend to the top and become famous in the Outlander domain. Ark, he's too powerful. I worship him so much. I like him so much. He was able to defeat the Sun Elf with the full power of the Emperor's Star, and he relied on his own strength to defeat the Sun Elf without any tricks at all. Even though I didn't like this person at first, I can't help but say that I've been won over by his charisma. He's truly a powerful person. It's the first time I've seen someone defeat someone with a Supreme Emperor star without any stars. I have nothing to say. That person is truly powerful. Countless people cried out excitedly, looking incredibly shocked. Even the powerful major figures looked incredibly shocked. It could be seen just how big of a commotion Zhao Fu had caused. The 9 geniuses stared at this scene in shock. The Outlander race's most powerful expert, someone who had reached the pinnacle of the Outlander race, had been defeated today. What's more, he had been defeated with overwhelming power. Now that the Sun Elf had lost, everyone accepted it wholeheartedly and did not have any objections. The elephant person felt a trace of nervousness as he said, I never thought that person would actually win. His true strength is so terrifying. Just what sort of monster were we fighting against back then? Yu Luohua also said in shock, That's right. I never thought that that fellow would find it so difficult to defeat a Supreme Emperor star. If it was me, I would have died without a trace. The Ogre Demon said in agreement, If the Sun Elf did not use the Supreme Emperor star, we would have been able to fight. However, once he used the Supreme Emperor star, we would have lost without a doubt. After all, that's the Outlander race's Supreme Emperor star, and there are only a few of them in the entire Outlander race. The Lion person said seriously, He's a peerless expert and has won my respect and admiration. He's the first person I've admired so much. Hubaime lightly harumphed. That fellow is actually so terrifying. There's nothing I can't accept anymore. I'm afraid even a few geniuses working together would not be able to defeat him. I'll give him a chance later. The Orc person said excitedly, It's the first time I've seen such a terrifying battle. Both sides are simply too powerful. Even though the elf was defeated, he deserved respect. The dwarf sighed. His power has already made me feel a sense of powerlessness and defeat. I thought that with Eternal Protector, I would be able to become number 1, but after seeing their power, I realized how laughable that was. Medusa did not say anything and looked at Zhao Fu. Back when Zhao Fu had defeated her, she had felt a trace of dissatisfaction because she had not used her most powerful attack, the petrification ability. However, from the power that Zhao Fu had displayed, even if she used her ability, she would definitely lose. However, she could not help but feel a trace of admiration towards Zhao Fu for defeating the Sun Elf, who had an Emperor's star. Defeating the Sun Elf had been her goal for a long time, and now, Zhao Fu had accomplished it first. The dragon person said seriously, What I'm most curious about is his identity. Not only can he control the 6 paths demon images, but he also has a divine bloodline. If he's such a terrifying person, how come I've never heard of him before? Hearing his words, everyone felt quite startled. They were also quite curious about this. Just who was Zhao Fu? Why did he have such terrifying power and abilities? The elephant person thought about it before saying seriously, He's most likely someone from a holy empire. Only people from holy empires have divine bloodlines, which is why even though he's so powerful, we've never heard of him before. The ogre demon nodded in agreement, saying, Most likely only people from holy empires have such terrifying power. Ordinary people would not be able to do such a thing. Yu Luohua felt a trace of confusion as she said, Since he's from a holy empire, he most likely has an incredibly terrifying Emperor Star. If he uses Emperor Star, perhaps it would not be so difficult. However, he doesn't have such an Emperor Star. Could it be that this isn't his true strength? The orc person felt quite shocked and gulped as he said, Don't try to scare people. If this isn't his true strength, then isn't his strength a bit too terrifying? Medusa said seriously, If he has a fate star, he will indeed be at his strongest. However, if the opponent's Emperor Star is of a much higher grade than yours, you will be completely suppressed, so it will be quite disadvantageous for you. However, as a holy sun with such terrifying power, his Emperor Star should not be much weaker than a Supreme Emperor Star. Perhaps he really hasn't used his full power yet. Now that the second-ranked Medusa had said such a thing, everyone felt quite shocked and looked at Zhao Fu. They did not know that Zhao Fu was the person who had 5 Emperor stars, which had caused such a commotion before. The Dragon Princess and the others looked at Zhao Fu in delight and worship. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so terrifying. He had defeated the strongest expert of the Outlander race. He was now the strongest expert, a supreme existence, and someone everyone looked up to. The Dragon Princess laughed as she said, "Husband is simply too powerful." Adding on that divine bloodline, "Even I feel that I'm not worthy of him. I feel quite fortunate that I'm the woman of such a powerful person." The elf princess lightly laughed as she said, "I knew that husband was no ordinary person. I always felt that he would become the most powerful person in the world in the future, and the entire Heaven Awakened world would be shocked by him and look up to him." Now, the people from the 2 empires were all incredibly delighted. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would be so powerful to be able to defeat even the Sun Elf, who was ranked first on the Heaven's Pride rankings. Moreover, they could see that Zhao Fu and the 2 princesses were incredibly close, and their relationship was definitely confirmed. Chapter 1707. That was a legendary holy empire, and the benefits it would bring them were unimaginable. They wanted to marry their princesses over, and they had long since cast aside their thoughts of killing Zhao Fu. Yu Luohua and Hu Baimei's empire also wanted to marry them over. At first, they had admired Zhao Fu and felt that Zhao Fu had great potential. However, contrary to their expectations, not only did Zhao Fu have a divine bloodline, but he had also defeated the Sun Elf. In the future, Zhao Fu's accomplishments would definitely surpass the Sun Elf's, causing them to value Zhao Fu even more. Putting aside strength, just Zhao Fu's divine bloodline was enough for them to marry their princesses over. After all, a divine bloodline was a terrifying bloodline that reigned above a sovereign bloodline. Even the Outlander race's most powerful empire's bloodline was limited to the peak of the imperial bloodline. It could be seen just how rare and precious a divine bloodline was. In fact, Medusa's empire was quite interested in Zhao Fu and wanted to marry Medusa to Zhao Fu. The Academy's teachers looked at Zhao Fu in shock. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such a powerful faction to be able to defeat the Sun Elf. The elegant-looking woman lightly laughed as she said, "He's quite terrifying. He exploded out with such terrifying power at the end. He's comparable to a ghost immortal, and even the Sun Elf was unable to force him to use all of his power. I feel that this ghost immortal state has even more power that he has not used yet. It's a pity that the Sun Elf was defeated, or else an even more intense battle would have erupted. When that time comes, we'll be able to see just how terrifying this state's power is." The chubby bear race elder happily laughed as he said, "I knew that this boy would surpass our expectations. My intuition was right. It's a pity that he's not from our Outlander race, and is most likely from the Death race. I really envy them for having such a peerless genius." The serious-looking middle-aged man sighed as he replied, "That's right. For a race to have such a terrifying existence, it will greatly affect the entire race, and it can even increase the race's overall power and might. I admit that I underestimated him once again. Before, I also had some prejudice against him. He used his own strength to prove himself. It was my poor judgment to discover that he was so extraordinary. Now, I have to reevaluate him." The gnome elder's expression was quite unsightly as he nodded and said, "My judgment was quite poor. Before, I said that he would not be able to defeat the Sun Elf, but now he has used this result to tell me that he has the ability to do so. I once again underestimated him. However, he's still quite monstrous to be able to wield such terrifying power. Even the Sun Elf, who unleashed his full Emperor Star's power, was defeated by him. It's not that the Sun Elf is weak, but that he's too powerful. Also, the top 10 geniuses of the Outsider race were defeated by a ghost race. This is not a good thing for the entire Outsider race. The entire Outsider race has lost face, and if others were to talk about it, they would feel ashamed as well." The Fox Race man said, "There's no need to say too much. After all, it's just that we're not as strong as him. It's not that our top 10 geniuses are weak. Even if it was any other race, the result would be the same. It's just that that person is too powerful. Also, that person has undoubtedly taken first place in this examination. In the future, he'll be a student of Outlander 10 College, so we can't have any prejudice against him. Having such a terrifying student is a great blessing for Outlander 10 College. The bear race elder sighed as he said, "Now that he has defeated the Sun Elf, it's likely that he'll be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword. It's a pity that he's from a death race, and I don't know if the Sun Elf will be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword after being defeated." The serious-looking middle-aged man said worriedly, "I'm also worried about this. If the Sun Elf had not been defeated by that person, perhaps it would have been possible. However, he lost at that person's hands and suffered a great loss of fate, making it even more difficult for him to be acknowledged." The gnome elder nodded. "I don't know who will be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword, and I'm not very confident that the prophecy will come true." The fox race man said with a serious expression, "I hope that the prophecy will come true and that someone will inherit the will of the first King of Kings and lead our Outlander race to glory, becoming the greatest race in the world." The elegant-looking woman laughed. "Don't be so lacking in confidence. Isn't there someone who has caused the 23 statues to give off 10-colored light who hasn't appeared yet? Moreover, there are many terrifying figures hidden among them. It's possible that someone will be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword and become the King of Kings." Hearing this, everyone's expressions became better, and they turned their gazes back to the battlefield. Zhao Fu looked at the Sun Elf on the ground and received the system announcement in his mind. Zhao Fu did not do anything and turned into a ray of light and disappeared over the horizon. The Dragon Princess and the others also returned to where they had been. After returning, Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on the ground and continued to recover. This time, Zhao Fu's injuries were quite severe and were not as simple as they seemed. After Zhao Fu had exited the ghost immortal state, he had powerlessly crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. He got up with great difficulty and slowly recovered from his injuries. Because Zhao Fu had the divine bloodline, his recovery speed was quite fast, and his injuries gradually stabilized. The Dragon Princess and the other women obediently waited outside, not daring to disturb Zhao Fu at all. 5 days later, Zhao Fu once again opened his eyes and breathed out a mouthful of impure air. By now, Zhao Fu's injuries had completely recovered, and he was pleasantly surprised to find that Zhao Fu's cultivation had broken through to the Great Earth Realm. After breaking through to the Great Earth Realm, Zhao Fu could use his own cultivation to draw out some heaven and earth power, making him even more powerful than before. Moreover, while Zhao Fu had been recovering, a massive wave of Outlander fate had stealthily entered Zhao Fu's body, causing the 34 totems to completely fuse with Zhao Fu's body. Back then, countless rainbow-colored lights had exploded out from Zhao Fu's back, and the auras of the 34 races had exploded out. This seemed incredibly chaotic and disorderly, and the various auras collided, causing Zhao Fu to fall into pain and feel as if his body was going to split apart. Following this, a massive wave of Outlander fate flowed into Zhao Fu's body, and only then did he gradually suppress these totems and fuse with them. Now, Zhao Fu could easily control these totems and could even use different totem powers. At the same time, within Zhao Fu's bloodline, there were various totem powers that could be passed down to the next generation. Chapter 1709. Boom! The massive stone mountain gave off an enormous golden ray of light that gave off a boundless aura as it rushed into the sky, resulting in a massive explosion. Intense waves of golden light spread out in the sky, instantly covering the entire secret realm. The entire sky became golden and gave off a noble, powerful, ancient, and supreme aura, as well as a formless might weighing down on everyone's bodies. System announcement. The restrictions on the King of Kings Mountain have disappeared, and anyone can now ascend the King of Kings Mountain. After this system announcement sounded out, Countless people looked wild with joy and exploded out with powerful auras as they madly rushed up the stone mountain. Zhao Fu felt quite startled and did not understand what was going on. The people on the viewing platforms were also quite surprised. They had never thought that the rules would be different from before and that everyone could ascend the King of Kings Mountain. In the past, only the top 10 people had the right to ascend the King of Kings Mountain. Seeing countless people rush up the stone mountain, Zhao Fu also gave off a powerful aura and rushed up. Soon, Zhao Fu reached the top of the stone mountain. There was a smooth, rocky ground here. It was quite big. However, there was nothing there other than a golden sword stabbed into the center of the ground. That golden sword was a two-handed sword. The hilt was covered in golden scales, and the tail was round. Where the blade and hilt met was the head of a ferocious beast, and the body of the sword was engraved with the totems of countless races. This sword gave off a supreme sword aura and gave off a noble, ancient, and powerful aura. The countless auras in the sky were all from this sword. This sword was not simple at all, and Zhao Fu looked at it seriously. In front of this sword, even with his divine bloodline, Zhao Fu felt some pressure. From this, it could be seen how terrifying this sword was, and its grade most likely surpassed that of the Emperor Killing Sword. Right now, the Emperor Killing Sword had not fully matured yet. Zhao Fu's Emperor Killing Sword was a sword that could grow, and the larger the Emperor Killing Sword world, the higher grade the sword would be. As such, it could not compare to this golden sword. However, Zhao Fu's Emperor Killing Sword had fused with Celestial Slaying Sword intent and the power of 5 Emperor Stars. It was an incredibly terrifying sword, but it could not compare to this golden sword. That golden sword was simply too terrifying. Because Zhao Fu had not investigated the King of Kings sword, he did not know what this sword was. However, seeing how everyone present, including the Sun Elf, looked incredibly excited, he understood that this sword was incredibly important. Countless people rushed forward. Some couldn't help but rush forward, wanting to pull out the golden sword that was stuck in the ground. Boom! The sword gave off a powerful golden wave of light and gave off a terrifying power, sending everyone flying back. Only then did the others stop and watch on the outside, not daring to go up. Even though the rules had changed, with how noble the King of Kings sword was, it was not something that just anyone could touch. As the 10th ranked genius, the elephant person thought about it and exploded out with a powerful aura as he stepped forwards. What shocked everyone was that the golden sword did not give off a golden wave of light. This made countless people feel quite discouraged. Their talent, power, and bloodlines were inferior to those terrifying geniuses, and they did not even have the right to get close. The elephant person felt quite nervous and had never thought that things would turn out like this. He walked over to the King of Kings sword and looked at it, feeling quite nervous and excited. If he could pull it out, he would become the Outlander race's King of Kings, the most terrifying existence in the world. The elephant person felt incredibly excited and nervous as he gripped the sword hilt, and countless people also started to feel nervous. The elephant person vigorously pulled, but the sword did not budge at all, as if it was connected to the ground. The elephant person felt quite startled and gripped the sword with both hands. Ark! The elephant person roared and exploded out with terrifying power. A terrifying aura flame erupted around his body, sending out wild gales. The elephant person vigorously tried to pull, but the sword did not budge at all. The elephant person was quite unwilling and roared as he exploded out with an even more powerful aura. He gripped the sword with both hands and vigorously pulled, but he still did not succeed. The elephant person did not give up and continued to pull. Bang! The sword once again exploded out with immense power and sent the elephant person flying back. He crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. He looked quite dispirited because he had completely lost his chance to become the King of Kings. The people in the surroundings looked quite disappointed, but they also let out sighs of relief. The King of Kings sword was not something that ordinary people could pull out. Since the elephant person had failed, they now had a chance. The second person to go up, the three-headed ogre smiled as he walked over to the golden sword and gripped it with both hands. He knew that it would be incredibly difficult to pull out the King of Kings sword, so he immediately exploded out with his full strength. Boom! A massive aura exploded out as the three-headed ogre tightly gripped the sword with both hands and did his best to pull it out, but the sword did not budge at all. In the end, the three-headed ogre's expression was quite unsightly as he retreated. He understood that he would not be able to pull out the King of Kings sword with his strength, so he could only return to where he was and wait for others to try and see if they could pull out the King of Kings sword. The ordinary people in the surroundings naturally did not go up, as they did not even have the right to go up and grab the sword. If they went up, they would be forced back, so they could only obediently watch. Otherwise, they would also go up and try, hoping that they would be the King of Kings. The elephant person was ranked 10th, and the three-headed ogre was ranked 7th. No one was too disappointed that they had failed, as they had expected this. Following this, the 9th-ranked Uluowa nervously went up and spread her wings, exploding out with intense light that covered the surroundings. However, the King of Kings sword did not budge at all. In the end, she looked quite disappointed as she returned to where she had been and thought to herself, "Even a peerless genius can't pull out the King of Kings sword. No wonder no one has been able to pull it out after so many years." The 8th-ranked orc also went up and tried, but he could not make the King of Kings sword move at all. He returned to where he had been in disappointment, but he had already mentally prepared himself. If even the three-headed ogre, who was slightly stronger than him, could not pull it out, his chances would be even smaller. At that moment, the lion person gave off a powerful aura and had a grim expression as he came to the King of Kings sword. He gripped the hilt with both hands and roared as a massive aura flame appeared. The lion person vigorously tried to pull, but the sword did not budge at all. Chapter 17:10. Hubaime also wanted to go up and see if she could pull out the King of Kings sword. However, at that moment, a chubby pigman young man walked up first, surprising everyone. The King of Kings sword did not give off any shockwaves to force the pigman young man back. This meant that the pigman young man had the right to go up and pull out the sword. Didn't this mean that he had the potential to rival the top 10 geniuses? Most people felt that this pigman young man was unfamiliar and had never seen or heard of him before. He was most likely one of those terrifying figures hidden in the crowd. Everyone felt quite interested in him and looked at him, waiting to see what he would do. The pigman young man walked up to the King of Kings sword and gripped it with both hands, exploding out with an aura. A 10-meter-tall pigman image giving off terrifying power appeared behind the pigman young man. It raised its head to the sky and roared as a powerful aura exploded out. At that moment, the pigman young man roared and vigorously pulled the sword with both hands. A shocking thing happened. The King of Kings' sword slightly moved, causing countless people's minds to tremble as they stared at the King of Kings' sword. However, countless people were once again disappointed. The King of Kings' sword only moved slightly before it stopped moving. The pigman young man seemed to run out of strength, and his body collapsed. In the end, the pigman young man returned to his original place with a dispirited look on his face. Even though the pigman young man had failed, this gave everyone some confidence, because someone had finally caused the King of Kings' sword to slightly move. This was enough to make everyone feel quite excited. It was still possible to pull out the King of Kings' sword. At that moment, a powerful-looking minotaur young man walked up, and the King of Kings' sword did not force him back. Everyone looked quite surprised. This was yet another terrifying figure hidden in the crowd. The minotaur went up and gripped the sword with one hand as he roared. His muscles bulged as a powerful power exploded out. The minotaur young man vigorously tried to pull the sword, but the King of Kings' sword did not move at all. The minotaur held the sword with his other hand and roared, sending out a shockwave that turned into a wild gale. However, the sword still did not move at all. In the end, the minotaur awkwardly returned to his original spot. He thought that since the pigman could move the sword a little, he might be able to pull it out a little. However, it turned out that he was inferior to the pigman youth. After that, a few more people walked up, Without exception, all of them were unfamiliar faces. The crowd had never heard of them before, and every single one of them was extremely powerful. Some of them were not any weaker than the top 10 geniuses and belonged to the category of hidden and terrifying characters. Many people felt quite surprised. They had never thought that there would be so many powerful people hidden here. No one had sensed them before, and if it wasn't for the King of Kings' sword, they would not have appeared. Their goal was most likely the King of Kings' sword. After they failed, no one else went up. Hu Bai gave a flirtatious smile and turned into a 10,000-meter-long, 10-tailed fox, giving off an incredibly terrifying aura and sending out wild gales. With such a large body, she had a great advantage in terms of power. A casual strike from her could shatter a small mountain, and she was incredibly terrifying. Hu Bai gripped the King of Kings' sword with a massive beast claw and pulled with terrifying power. The King of Kings' sword actually moved a little, and Hu Bai felt quite delighted. She exploded out with a powerful aura and vigorously pulled, causing the King of Kings' sword to move a little more. Countless people's hearts tightened as they stared at the King of Kings' sword, but it did not move at all. In the end, Hu Bai also failed, and she looked quite unhappy as she returned to her human form. She had never thought that the King of Kings' sword would be so difficult to pull out. The fourth-rank dragon person also went up and tried. He succeeded in making the King of Kings' sword move a little before there was no reaction. The dragon person had expected this and was not too disappointed, and he returned to his original spot. At that moment, a black goat person walked up. He was an unfamiliar face and was a terrifying figure hidden in the crowd. He exploded out with a black aura flame and gripped the sword with both hands, causing the King of Kings' sword to slightly move. Boom! A massive aura spread out as the black aura flame became many times larger and turned into a black goat person that bit the King of Kings' sword. At the same time, he vigorously pulled with both hands, causing the King of Kings' sword to move a little more. Everyone was sent into an uproar. This was the first time someone had made the King of Kings' sword move 3 times, and they all looked at the goat person in shock. However, the goat person did not have any strength left, and he let go of the sword hilt as he returned to his original spot with a disappointed expression. Following this, a few more unfamiliar faces went up. Some of them made the King of Kings' sword slightly move, while others were unable to make it move at all. The Sun Elf gave off a sense of confidence and calmness as he stood there, not feeling panicked or nervous at all. He did not believe that this group of people could pull out the King of Kings' sword. If the King of Kings' sword could be pulled out so easily, it would not be the King of Kings' sword at all. The third-ranked dwarf went up and gripped the King of Kings' sword with both hands. He was not in a hurry to pull it out, and instead closed his eyes and calmed himself down. A massive wave of power flowed into his legs, and a silver magic formation, giving off a powerful aura, appeared. The dwarf gripped the sword hilt and started to pull. The silver magic formation continuously spun and gave off a massive wave of power as it helped the dwarf. Shing! A sword hum suddenly sounded out as something shocking happened. The dwarf was able to pull out the King of Kings' sword a little. This was not making the sword move a little, but pulling out a little. This dwarf's strength was quite terrifying. Everyone looked at the dwarf nervously and expectantly, but no matter how much strength the dwarf used, the King of Kings' sword could not be pulled out at all. In the end, the dwarf ran out of strength and sighed as he returned to his original spot. The failure of every genius meant that every faction's hearts would shatter. They had great confidence in their geniuses and hoped that they would be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword and become the second King of Kings. But now, their hopes had been dashed, causing the entire faction to be filled with disappointment and dejection. Their confidence had suffered a blow. The expressions of the people on the viewing platforms were quite unsightly. So many people had tried to pull out the King of Kings' sword, but they had all failed. At most, they had only been able to pull out a little. At that moment, Medusa slowly went up and was not in a hurry to pull out the King of Kings' sword. She gripped the sword with one hand and sent a massive wave of power into the King of Kings' sword. A green light covered the King of Kings' sword, and Medusa vigorously pulled. Shing! Chapter 17:11. However, Medusa was soon unable to pull it out at all. However, Medusa did not give up because of this, and she cried out as she exploded out with an even more powerful aura. A green aura flame appeared around her body as she pulled the sword out a bit more. Everyone once again felt nervous, but the sword gave off an unimaginable force as it continued to sink. Medusa gripped the sword, and after holding it for a while, she ran out of strength. Now, everyone's gazes were on the Sun Elf. The person who had the most hope of pulling out the King of Kings' sword was him. If he could pull it out, no one else in the world would be able to do so. If the King of Kings' prophecy could not be fulfilled, who knew how long it would be before anyone could pull out the King of Kings' sword? This would be a massive loss for the entire Outlander race. Countless people hoped that someone would be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword and become the second King of Kings, leading the entire Outlander race to glory. At that moment, countless people looked at the Sun Elf. They placed all of their hopes on him, hoping that he could pull out the King of Kings' sword and bring glory to the Outlander race. As countless people watched on, the Sun Elf gave off a transcendent aura as he slowly walked over to the King of Kings' sword. He slowly closed his eyes and breathed out as he gripped the King of Kings' sword. He once again opened his eyes, and two rays of golden light flowed within them. A powerful aura spread out from his body, causing a wild gale to spread out. The Sun Elf vigorously pulled out the sword, and a sword hum sounded out as the King of Kings' sword was pulled out a bit. A ferocious sword chi storm spread out, and everyone in the surroundings took a step back as they looked at the Sun Elf anxiously. This Sun Elf was quite powerful. He had directly pulled out a bit. He was definitely the person who was most likely to pull out the King of Kings' sword. The Sun Elf sensed the King of Kings' sword and felt it sink with unimaginable power. The Sun Elf tightly gripped the King of Kings' sword, preventing it from sinking, and he roared as a powerful golden aura flame erupted around his body. Shing! A sword hum sounded out as the King of Kings' sword was pulled out a bit more, and a massive sword chi storm spread out. The sword was pulled out a bit more, and the downward force became many times greater. The Sun Elf gripped the sword hilt with all of his strength, and he could no longer hold on, causing his arms to tremble. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as countless azure starlight covered the sky, and a star giving off a massive pressure slowly descended. At the same time, a massive wave of power entered the Sun Elf's body. Clang! A massive sword hum once again sounded out, and a massive sword chi storm spread out, forcing everyone to retreat. The King of Kings' sword was pulled out by half an inch, and countless people stared at the Sun Elf, feeling incredibly nervous and filled with anticipation. They wondered if the Sun Elf would be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword. Clang! Another sword hum sounded out, but it was not the sound of a sword being drawn. Instead, it was the sound of a sword falling to the ground. The Sun Elf had not been able to draw it out at all, and the sword had fallen back to the ground. Countless people's hearts sank. Even the Sun Elf, who had the support of the Emperor's star, could not pull it out. Who else in this world could? There was no one left. Everyone's faces were gloomy, and they felt an indescribable sense of loss. The Sun Elf's expression was quite unsightly, and he tried again, but was still unable to do it. He could only return to where he was and think to himself, can anyone really pull out the King of Kings' sword? I'm someone with the support of the Supreme Emperor Star, yet I can't do it. This means that no one can pull out the King of Kings' sword, and no one can become the second King of Kings. Suddenly, a figure walked up. It was not Zhao Fu, but a blood-red-haired young man. He went up and grabbed the King of Kings' sword and vigorously pulled it out. Clang! A massive sword hum sounded out as a massive sword wind ferociously spread out. Countless people looked at the blood-red-haired young man in shock. Just who was this person? He had actually been able to pull the sword out by an inch. How terrifying. Countless people looked at the young man's body, feeling both nervous and filled with anticipation. They had never thought that he would actually be a bit stronger than the Sun Elf. The blood-red-haired young man was expressionless as he gripped the King of Kings' sword's hilt, and he felt an incredibly powerful downward force. Boom! An enormous blood-red flame exploded out, sending out an enormous gale that forced everyone back. An otherworldly aura that reigned above that of an emperor spread out, causing everyone to fall into terror. Countless people were once again shocked, and massive waves crashed in their hearts. This blood-red-haired young man was actually a holy son, and an Outlander race's holy son at that. Clang! A massive sword hum once again sounded out as an enormous sword chi storm containing terrifying power spread out. The King of Kings' sword was pulled out by another inch, and it was only 3 inches away from being pulled out. Countless people started to feel incredibly excited, feeling incredibly certain that this blood-red-haired young man was the person in the prophecy, the second King of Kings. Moreover, he had the Outlander race's divine bloodline. No one had thought that the Outlander race would also have a holy son. Clang! The blood-red-haired young man's expression was cold as he gripped the sword hilt and vigorously pulled. A sword hum once again sounded out as the King of Kings' sword was once again pulled out a bit. Everyone felt even more excited and expectant. Now, they were only 2 inches away from being able to pull out the King of Kings' sword. Everyone could see that there was only a bit of strength left before the King of Kings' sword could be pulled out. The blood-red-haired young man gripped the sword hilt with one hand and felt an even more terrifying downward force. He coldly harumphed and exploded out with all of his strength. A terrifying aura spread out as blood-red rays of light shot into the sky, forming a blood-red pillar of light. World energy continuously flowed in, causing the heavens and earth to dim and clouds to swirl. The young man once again pulled out the King of Kings' sword a bit, and everyone looked delirious with delight as if they could already see the blood-red-haired young man pulling out the King of Kings' sword. Clang! A sword hum once again caused countless people to fall into the abyss, and the sword fell back into the slot. The blood-red-haired young man was in disbelief and once again exploded out with even more power, but he was still unable to pull it out. In the end, he angrily returned to his original spot. Those with the Emperor's Star and Divine Bloodline were unable to pull it out. Now, countless people felt despair and were certain that no one in the world could pull out the King of Kings' sword. It was impossible for a King of Kings to appear. The first King of Kings' prophecy had been wrong. There was no one who could inherit his will and lead the Outlander race. The people in the surroundings felt incredibly dispirited and did not have any confidence at all. Facing such a terrifying King of Kings' sword, they felt incredibly powerless and weak. Chapter 17:12. Seeing Zhao Fu's actions, everyone felt quite startled and felt quite confused. Why was a member of the Death Race joining in on the fun? This is the King of Kings' sword, a holy item of the Outlander race. It's not something an Outlander can touch. No matter how strong he is, it doesn't matter. Could it be that he doesn't know what the King of Kings' sword is, so he's stupidly going up to try? However, it looks like he really doesn't know. Someone kindly reminded, Holy Son, that's an item of the Outlander race and is called the King of Kings' sword. Other races cannot touch it, or they'll be attacked. Hearing this, Zhao Fu calmly nodded and continued to walk forwards. This made everyone feel quite confused. Now that someone had reminded him, why was he still going up? Did he not believe what they said? Or did he think that he was strong enough to pull out the King of Kings' sword? Some people felt as if they could see Zhao Fu making a fool of himself. Before he could even reach the King of Kings' sword, he would be sent flying back by it. However, he had brought this upon himself. He thought that he could pull out the King of Kings' sword with great power. Now that someone had reminded him that only the Outlander race could go up and pull out the King of Kings' sword, he was too arrogant and could not blame anyone for making a fool of himself. Everyone present looked as if they wanted to see Zhao Fu make a fool of himself. They did not believe that a member of the Death Race could go up and pull out the King of Kings' sword. The 9 geniuses and those hidden, terrifying figures all looked at Zhao Fu. They knew how terrifying Zhao Fu's power was, and he was even more powerful than the Sun Elf. If he was from the Outlander race, he would be more likely to be able to pull out the King of King's sword, but he was not from the Outlander race. They naturally did not believe that Zhao Fu could go up and pull out the sword. They had personally gone up and knew how terrifying the King of King's sword was. If a member of the death race like Zhao Fu went up, he would definitely be forced back by the King of King's sword. Hu Baimei lightly harumphed and said to Zhao Fu, "I already told you that's our Outlander race's King of King's sword. A member of the death race like you doesn't have a right to go up and pull it out, so why are you going up? Do you think we would lie to you?" Medusa reminded Zhao Fu, "This is an Outlander race's supreme relic. As a member of the death race, you won't be able to go up and pull it out, and you might even be in great danger. After all, going up to pull out an Outlander race's supreme relic is a very dangerous thing." The lion person said seriously, "Holy Sun, you're right. As a holy son of the ghost race, you'll definitely be violently rejected by the foreign race's holy artifact. At that time, you'll be in extreme danger, and your life might even be in danger." Hearing these words, Zhao Fu chuckled and said, "I know, but I just want to go forward and try to see if I can pull out that sword." When the people in the surroundings heard that Zhao Fu was determined to go up and court death, they thought that they would just wait for him to make a fool of himself. He really didn't know what was good for him. Even though they told him not to go, he still went. However, it was also a happy thing to see such a terrifying person make a fool of himself. It was also very rare. Thinking about that, everyone smiled and waited for Zhao Fu to go up and draw the sword. Hearing Zhao Fu's words, the Sun Elf said coldly, "Don't be too arrogant. You're powerful, but that's an Outlander race's holy artifact. There's no need for you to try. You don't even have the right to draw it. So how can you pull out the King of King's sword? Also, as the death race's holy son, if you go up and trigger a violent reaction from the King of King's sword and it wants to kill you, no one will be able to save you. I don't want to see you die before I even defeat you." The blood-haired young man looked at Zhao Fu and felt quite curious about Zhao Fu. He did not know where Zhao Fu was from and where he had a divine bloodline. He had never heard of this person before. However, the blood-haired young man did not believe that Zhao Fu would be able to pull out the King of King's sword. Even he, as a holy son of the Outlander race, could not pull out, so how could a holy son of the death race do it? The people on the stage had been quite dispirited and did not have any confidence at all. They had thought that the prophecy would come true and that the second King of Kings would appear. However, what made them feel despair was that not even the Supreme Emperor Star or the Outlander race's holy son could do it. Who else could pull out the sword? Seeing Zhao Fu, a death race person, go up, they looked in disbelief, and some people even mocked him. A death race person like him can pull out the King of King's sword. Even if you beat me to death, I wouldn't believe it. Just wait for him to be beaten up by the King of King's sword. Huh, a death race person going up to pull out the King of King's sword? No one would believe such a joke. I feel that this person is seeking death. However, it's good that he's a holy son of the death race. It'll be a great loss for the death race. That's right. After all, he's from the death race and not from our race. With how monstrous his power is, he might be a disaster for our race in the future. Perhaps the King of King's sword thinks the same and feels like that person will definitely die if he goes up. Let's wait for that person to make a fool of himself. He's overestimating himself. It was not just the countless people on the viewing platforms who felt this way. The large factions on Zhao Fu's side also looked in disbelief, and they were certain that Zhao Fu had pulled out the King of King's sword. They felt that Zhao Fu had acted rashly and had been too arrogant. He had continuously tried to persuade Zhao Fu to pull out the King of King's sword and had put himself in grave danger. Their goodwill towards Zhao Fu had decreased. They felt that even though Zhao Fu's bloodline power was powerful, his mind was not mature enough and needed more training. The Academy's teachers could not believe this. Zhao Fu, a member of the death race, had pulled out the King of King's sword. The bear race elder frowned and said, "He's too arrogant this time. That's the Outlander race's King of King's sword. Outlander geniuses can try, but a death race holy son like him might really be killed by the King of King's sword. The King of King's sword is our Outlander race's holy item, and it will definitely stand on our side. If an ordinary outlander tried to go up, they would most likely be sent flying. However, if a death race holy sun goes up, the King of Kings sword might be able to kill this threat, and the King of Kings sword will definitely be infuriated. The gnome elder nodded and said, so many people have tried to persuade him, but he still wants to try. He looks down on the outlander race's King of Kings sword too much. Perhaps he has been pampered in the Holy Empire for too long and does not know that there are things in the world that even the Holy Empire does not have. The stern-looking middle-aged man said worriedly, his identity is so terrifying. If he really dies in the mystic realm, the force behind him will definitely cause trouble. This is not a good thing for our academy. Chapter 17:13. The fox race man smiled and nodded. I think so too. We don't have to worry too much, and we don't have to be too disappointed either. We've been waiting for the person who caused the 23 statues to react, but he still hasn't appeared. As long as the secret realm doesn't close, there's still a chance that the prophecy will come true. Hearing this, everyone thought about it and felt a bit better. They had almost forgotten about that terrifying hidden figure. He was the person who had a good chance of pulling out the King of Kings sword, and perhaps he was the prophesied person. Now, everyone's gazes were gathered on Zhao Fu's body. However, they were not looking to see how Zhao Fu would draw the sword, but how Zhao Fu would make a fool of himself and seek his own death. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he looked quite calm as he slowly walked towards the King of Kings sword. Seeing Zhao Fu get closer and closer to the King of Kings sword, everyone started to feel nervous. They waited for the King of Kings sword to explode out with terrifying power to push back or even kill Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu walked forward step by step, and he finally stepped into the King of Kings sword's range. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive aura exploded out. A 3-meter-tall golden aura flame burst forth from the King of Kings sword, sending out powerful gales that spread out. Everyone grinned, and some people could not help but yell out. They had told him not to go, and now he had caused such a reaction from the King of Kings sword. Now, not only would he make a fool of himself, but his life might also be in danger. The geniuses standing closest to Zhao Fu became wary in case the King of Kings sword's terrifying power reached them. This was the King of Kings sword, the Outlander race's holy item, and it was the most terrifying thing. They did not dare to underestimate it, as they could lose their lives. Zhao Fu did not mind the King of Kings sword's terrifying ripples and continued forwards. Everyone's hearts tightened, and they could not help but retreat. It was as if they could already see the King of Kings sword exploding out with terrifying sword energy. However, to everyone's surprise, nothing happened to Zhao Fu as he walked forwards. This made countless people feel quite confused, and they could not understand what was going on. The King of Kings sword had clearly given off such powerful ripples, so why did it not attack Zhao Fu? Zhao Fu ignored everyone's gazes and walked forwards. He came to the King of Kings sword side and stretched out a hand to grasp the sword's hilt. The surroundings and viewing platforms were sent into an uproar. Countless people stared at this scene with wide eyes. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would not be attacked and could even touch the King of Kings sword. Just what was going on? Just as Zhao Fu touched the sword, he felt a sense of familiarity. Wasn't this the power that had guided him to challenge the top 10 geniuses? Now that he was holding the sword, Zhao Fu could sense just how terrifying this sword was. His expression became serious as he stood in front of the sword and gripped it with both hands. He closed his eyes and lightly breathed out. However, how could someone from the Death race pull out the Outlander race's holy sword? It's already a miracle that he was able to touch the King of Kings sword. Now, everyone's minds were in chaos, and they could not understand why the King of Kings sword had not forced back Zhao Fu, a member of the Death race, and it seemed like it wanted him to draw the sword. However, he was not from the Outlander race. Now, everyone's minds were in chaos. They could not understand why the King of Kings sword had not forced Zhao Fu back, and it seemed to have allowed him to draw the sword. However, he was not an Outlander. Xing, Everyone's minds were in chaos, and they could not understand why the King of Kings' sword had not forced back Zhao Fu, a member of the death race, and it seemed like it wanted him to draw the sword. However, he was not from the Outlander race. Shing! A massive sword hum sounded out as a massive storm of sword chi spread out, attacking in all directions. Countless people looked incredibly shocked. They had never thought that that person would be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword by an inch. This was a bit more than the Holy Sun from before, which meant that this person had more potential than the Holy Sun, or was even more powerful. At that moment, Zhao Fu sensed the terrifying downward force from the sword, and he gripped the sword's hilt with both hands. If he was not careful, he might fall back to the ground. Boom! Zhao Fu did not hide anything and exploded out with his divine bloodline's power. A massive black aura flame erupted around Zhao Fu's body, giving off a transcendent power that reigned above the Emperor realm. Standing by the side, the blood-haired young man looked at Zhao Fu in shock. He found that Zhao Fu's divine bloodline's aura was a bit stronger than his. Just who was this person? Shing! A sword hum once again sounded out, and an even greater sword chi storm spread out, attacking the surroundings. The sword was pulled out by another inch, and it was only 2 inches away. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu in disbelief. Could this person from the death race really be able to pull out the King of Kings' sword? At that moment, Zhao Fu sensed the King of Kings' sword's massive downward force. If he did not use all of his strength to hold onto the sword, it was possible that the sword would fall back. Moreover, it would be incredibly difficult to pull out again. Arg! Zhao Fu gripped the sword with both hands and roared as he exploded out with a terrifying aura. The totem power within his body was activated, and countless colors of light shot out from Zhao Fu's back as 34 different Outlander auras flowed out. Swish, 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 34 different colored rays of light shot out from Zhao Fu's back, which shot in the sky and turned into 34 different races. There were dragon people, rat folk, lion people, giants, cat people, kobolds, elves. The 34 figures represented 34 large races, and they stood in the sky, forming a circle with Zhao Fu at the center. This scene caused countless people to feel even more shocked. Why did that person have so much totem power? Why did he have the auras of 34 different races? And why did the light he shot out form the figures of 34 different races? Everyone could not understand, and their minds went blank. At that moment, Zhao Fu roared as he gripped the sword with both hands and used all of his strength to pull it up. The 34 figures in the sky exploded out with powerful auras, and their bodies gave off all sorts of lights. Shing! A sword hum sounded out throughout the heavens and earth, and countless rays of golden sword light shot out in all directions. A terrifying golden sword chi storm containing terrifying power swept out, causing countless people to retreat in panic. What was even more unbelievable was that the death race person had actually pulled out the King of Kings' sword. The first King of Kings prophecy had been fulfilled, and the King of Kings' sword, which should have been impossible to pull out, had actually been pulled out. Chapter 17:14. However, how could someone from the death race draw the King of Kings' sword? Everyone could not understand this, and it was quite strange that someone from the death race had become the ruler of the Outlander race. However, everyone was once again shocked. That person's death race aura dissipated and a pure Outlander aura exploded out, turning into a flood that swept everything in the surroundings. Only then did everyone realize that they had been wrong. That person was not from the death race at all. Whether it was his identity or bloodline, he was from the purest Outlander race. Countless people's eyes widened as they stared at the scene in front of them. They had never thought that things would turn out like this. The person they had been mocking was the future King of Kings, and because of their shock, they could not say anything at all. Zhao Fu drew the King of Kings' sword with both hands and felt a massive wave of power flow into his body. The barrier that had been blocking the awakening of the Emperor's star was instantly torn apart. Zhao Fu held the King of Kings' sword with one hand and pointed it towards the sky as he roared and sent a terrifying wave of power into the sword. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out shaking the entire world. It was not just the people in the secret realm who heard this, but also the people on the viewing platforms. More than half of the Outlander domain heard this shocking explosion, and they all stopped what they were doing and looked towards Outlander 10 College. An enormous golden sword light containing terrifying power shot into the sky, seeming to tear a hole in the sky. A massive storm of sword chi blew out, and the people in the surroundings quickly retreated, not daring to stay nearby. The heavens and earth started to change as the sun and moon dimmed and clouds swirled. A massive might spread out from the sky, causing countless people's bodies to sink and their bloodlines to feel cold. They instinctively felt terror, and they knelt down. Sensing this aura, it was not just the people in the secret realm who looked up in shock. The people on the viewing platforms also looked up in shock, and massive waves crashed in their hearts. Countless traces of green starlight spread out, and the entire Outlander race's fate gathered. Perhaps it was because of the King of Kings sword, but the green light covered the entire Outlander domain, and the sky became completely green. A chaotic, powerful, ferocious, and noble aura flooded out from the sky, instantly inundating everything. Nothing could stop it, and the aura became greater and greater until it covered the entire heaven domain. All of the heaven domain's fate surged, quickly gathering in that direction. Heaven and earth's colors changed as winds and clouds surged. All of the auras became chaotic, and there was a sense of pressure and danger that came before a terrifying disaster. At that moment, countless terrifying figures in seclusion opened their eyes and looked into the sky in shock. They weren't the only ones. The people from the human realm, ghost realm, demon realm, god realm, spirit realm, demon realm, and water realm also sensed this shocking aura. They all looked in the direction of the other side with shocked expressions. In the human realm's Tiandao sect, a white-haired elder stood on a mountain peak, looking in the direction of the foreign land in shock. A young man next to him also sensed that terrifying aura and said seriously, "Master, this is the revered teacher. This ripple is most likely from someone from the Outlander race, awakening a supreme Emperor star. It's rare to see such a large ripple, and it's much greater than the ripple from my celestial Emperor star. That person might be extremely terrifying and will be a powerful opponent for me." The elder looked into the distance in shock and said seriously, "It's not as simple as an Outlander Emperor star awakening. That supreme Emperor star has the aura of a King of Kings. The first Outlander King of Kings prophecy has been fulfilled. Someone has really pulled out the King of Kings sword and inherited his will, becoming the second King of Kings. Now the Outlander race is truly going to rise up." Hearing the King of Kings' words, a look of shock appeared on the young man's face. The King of Kings was the most terrifying person of that era, and no one in the 9 heavens and 10 lands dared to contend with him. Even now, his fame shook the world and left behind countless legends. Now that he heard that someone had inherited his will and become the second King of Kings, he naturally felt incredibly shocked. A ferocious-looking middle-aged man from the demon domain said seriously, "Who would have thought that the prophecy would be fulfilled today? That successor has given off terrifying ripples, and he's most likely not an ordinary person. Otherwise, he would not have inherited the King of Kings' will. If he really can be like the King of Kings and unify the entire Outlander race, who could stop him? No one will be able to stop him, and the Outlander race's golden age will once again be reborn. The God race, demon race, and devil race will not dare to contend with him. No, we have to stop this. If that person really does lead the Outlander race, the demon race will not have good days in the future." Back then, the King of Kings era was the demon race's weakest era, and this was a great humiliation in the demon race's history. The middle-aged man gave off a terrifying aura as he turned into a ray of light and shot towards the Outlander domain. Within the Devil Domain's Dragon Emperor Palace, a well-built elder with a golden dragon horn said in shock, "The Outlander race has been incredibly lucky this time. The second King of Kings has appeared as an Emperor star, and the amount of fate he has gathered is simply unimaginable." It's possible that the second King of Kings will grow into a terrifying existence like the first King of Kings. We can't allow such a terrifying person to live, or else, if a second King of Kings appears, the other 7 races will suffer calamity. We can't allow the events of that era to happen again. The dragon race elder gave off a terrifying aura as he turned into a ray of light and disappeared over the horizon as he shot towards the Outlander domain. Within a holy and white temple in the god domain, a young man giving off intense holy light sat on a throne with a cold expression. Below him were countless white-armored divine guards, and the atmosphere was quite oppressive. Who would have thought that the king's prophecy would come true? After so many years, there really would be someone who would inherit his will. However, with the lesson from the first time, the second King of Kings definitely cannot be allowed to live. Back then, when the King of Kings existed, it was the worst of times. Our god race suffered great humiliation, and the great god race cannot be sullied. Send out orders for all of the god domain's experts to gather and head towards the Outlander race. No matter what we do, we cannot allow the Outlander race to protect the second King of Kings. We must get rid of this person, or else the entire god race will suffer calamity in the future. Yes. Chapter 17:15. A few humanoid figures of light from the spirit domain floated in the sky, and one of them said, "The King of Kings' prophecy has been fulfilled." That King of Kings legatee has descended with such a terrifying aura, and he will definitely become an extremely terrifying existence in the future. Should we go and take a look? Another person said, "There's no need. After all, the second King of Kings has descended, and our spirit race can't change anything. We'll just follow the will of the heavens and let him do what he wants." Another person disagreed, saying, "Back in the King of Kings era, the other 7 races were all suppressed. Even though our spirit race was not affected as much because we were small in numbers, this is still a shocking matter. Even if we don't participate, we should go and take a look." Hearing this, the others nodded and turned into rays of light and disappeared. In the ghost domain, a white-haired, skinny elder giving off dense, ghostly chi looked into the distance with a deep gaze and said seriously, as expected from the King of Kings legatee, he used the Supreme Emperor Star to descend and sent shockwaves throughout the entire heaven domain. His methods are even more terrifying than the King of Kings from back then. Perhaps others think that he will become a terrifying figure like the King of Kings, but I have a feeling that the second King of Kings will become even more terrifying than the first King of Kings. If the entire Outlander race listens to him, the Outlander race will truly rise up. I want to see what kind of terrifying person he is. The elder narrowed his eyes and turned into a gray ray of light as he disappeared over the horizon. Within the water domain's boundless deep sea, a group of water race experts gathered together, and a beautiful middle-aged woman said, "This second King of Kings is simply too terrifying. He's caused such massive ripples that the entire heaven domain has been shaken, and who knows how many old monsters have woken up." A fisherman said with a dark expression, "That's the second King of Kings. How could he not be terrifying? I feel that we should hurry over and take a look. Most of the people from the other domains have already gone over." Another octopus-like person said, "We should go and have a look at such a terrifying person. There are most likely many people who want to kill the second King of Kings. When the time comes, we can act according to the situation." A man with scales said seriously, "Back then, under the King of Kings' leadership, the Outlander race was simply too terrifying. Even the most powerful god race, the demon race, and the devil race did not dare to fight with the Outlander race. Back then, our water race was greatly suppressed and humiliated. I think it's best not to leave this person alive, or else that era will come again." The group of water-kind warriors responded, nodded, then transformed into streams of light and disappeared. Perhaps some people did not know what kind of terrifying figure the second King of Kings was and only felt that he was incredibly terrifying. They did not know his background or identity, and they did not know anything about him. However, there were 2 factions that knew and were incredibly shocked. The first was naturally the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, which had been paying attention to Zhao Fu this entire time. Just like before, an elder was observing Zhao Fu's 5 emperor stars in the boundless sea of stars. Suddenly, countless rays of green light spread out, giving off terrifying auras, and the entire boundless sea of stars seemed to tremble. In front of this aura, that elder felt like he was less than an ant, and his body felt icy cold as if he had fallen into an abyss. The people outside sensed the terrifying ripples from the Outlander domain and looked incredibly shocked. They did not know who this second King of Kings was. A young man in white said in shock, "The King of Kings left behind this prophecy, and it actually came true after so many years. This requires unimaginable prophecy abilities. Back then, the King of Kings was simply too terrifying." A pure-looking woman in white said, "Don't worry about the prophecy. Right now, the second King of Kings is the most important person. Now that the Emperor stars have descended, he has received boundless heaven's secrets blessing. The various races experts have all hurried over, but who knows what the outcome will be." A calm-looking young man said seriously, "The various large races most likely won't allow such a terrifying figure to descend. Now, it's up to the Outlander race to see if they can protect the second King of Kings." A young woman said happily and excitedly, "I also want to go and see just what kind of terrifying figure the second King of Kings is. To be able to become the King of Kings and awaken the Outlander race's Emperor Star, he's definitely an incredibly rare person. Hurry, call the Fate Sovereign." An extremely nervous and terrified voice suddenly sounded out, causing everyone to feel quite startled. They did not know what was going on, but they knew that something big had happened, so they hurriedly went to inform the Fate Sovereign. The pure and holy young woman in white stood on a building and looked into the distance. She had naturally sensed the terrifying ripples from the Outlander domain. She was wondering what kind of person the King of Kings was and what kind of impact he would have on the Heaven Awakened world. She also wondered if the various races experts would be able to kill this second King of Kings. At that moment, some people hurried over to her and reported that something big had happened. Hearing this, the young woman looked quite startled and felt quite confused. However, after coming to the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion and allowing her consciousness to enter the boundless Heaven's secrets, looking at the green light, she instantly understood everything. She was greatly startled and almost fell to the ground. No matter how she thought about it, she would never have thought that the terrifying second King of Kings would be him. If word of this got out, it would be enough to scare countless people to death. The young woman looked quite serious and did not say anything else, and she went to meet some old monsters from the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion. Apart from the Heaven's Secrets Pavilion, there was another faction that knew about Zhao Fu's identity, which was the Heaven Spear Financial Group. They had been paying close attention to Zhao Fu's blood the entire time. At that moment, the orb of blood gave off boundless green light, and an incredibly terrifying aura spread out, causing people to feel terror. Immediately, countless powerful figures from the Heaven Spirit Financial Group gathered here and looked at the orb of blood in shock. They had never thought that Zhao Fu's performance would once again greatly exceed their expectations. They had never thought that the King of Kings who had caused such shocking ripples would be him. Back to the Outlander domain. It had been said before that terrifying figures had long since come to the Outlander domain, waiting to see if that terrifying prophecy would come true. Chapter 17:16. Boom, boom. At this moment, there was no longer a need for countless experts to hide. They exploded out with terrifying auras and appeared in the sky. Their auras were like wild gales that wreaked havoc in all directions. The extremely dangerous auras flooded out, causing the entire world to fall into a cold and oppressive atmosphere. The expressions of the countless people who had been looking at Zhao Fu in shock fell, and they felt a wave of terror. Soon, someone stepped out and said loudly, "Outlander 10 College's examination has concluded. Those who have nothing to do with this should quickly leave." Countless people understood that something terrifying was about to erupt, and they felt quite terrified and hurriedly left the viewing platforms. There was no point in staying. In front of those powerful people, they were like ants that could be easily slaughtered. As such, no one dared to stay on the viewing platforms. However, some of the terrifying figures on the viewing platforms chose to stay. They understood these people's goal, and with their powerful strength, they did not fear them. Boom, boom, boom. There were also experts hiding in the surroundings in order to defend against these Outlander experts. They gave off powerful auras as they appeared. They would not allow anything to happen to the second King of Kings. He was the hope of the entire Outlander race. Both sides stood on different sides, and each side gave off powerful auras. The two massive auras continuously clashed, resulting in massive gales that swept out. At the same time, the terrifying auras reached their peak, and the surrounding air seemed to freeze, making it difficult for people to breathe. Their bodies instinctively trembled. On the side of the attackers, a middle-aged man in black clothes giving off killing intent said loudly, "Hurry up and hand over the second King of Kings, and let us seal the King of Kings' sword." On the side of the defenders, a green-robed elder with a ruddy face coldly replied, "You're delusional. Do you really think we do that? Also, you're acting so arrogantly in the Outlander domain. Aren't you afraid of staying here forever?" The middle-aged man in black wildly laughed as he said, "You don't need to worry about us. You should be the ones worrying. Do you really think you can protect him? The experts of the 7 domains are all rushing over. Do you think that your foreign domain alone can stop the 7 domains? Also, this isn't the era of the King of Kings. Can the Outlander race still unite? Most likely, many people wanted the second King of Kings to die. You don't have any hope in this battle, so don't put up any pointless resistance. When the time comes, it will be too late for you to regret." The green-robed elder's expression was a bit ugly, because the black-clothed middle-aged man was right. Their foreign land wasn't the strongest realm to begin with, and it was impossible for them to resist the joint attack of the 7 realms. More importantly, times were different now. Back then, countless races had revered him as the King of Kings and were willing to listen to the King of Kings' orders. However, would the countless races still do the same now? The answer is uncertain. The green-robed elder said coldly, "No matter what, we're protecting the second King of Kings. If you have the ability, you can do it over our corpses." The black-clothed middle-aged man snorted coldly, "That's your own death wish." Boom! The black-clothed middle-aged man exploded out with a massive blood-red flame as he held a large blood-red saber and gave off a powerful aura as he charged at the green-robed elder. Boom! The green-robed elder did not show any fear and also exploded out with a massive green aura flame. He held a spear and gave off a terrifying aura as he rushed over. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the two people gave off terrifying power as they clashed together, resulting in a terrifying shockwave. It gave off destructive power as it blasted out, destroying everything in the surroundings. It was not just the two of them. Everyone else also exploded out with great power and held their weapons as they rushed at each other. Bang! 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 Massive explosions sounded out as the battle was extremely intense. Waves of terrifying destructive power turned into wild gales that wreaked havoc, and the destructive aura spread out like a tide. Sensing the terrifying shockwaves behind them, the countless people who had left the viewing platforms felt quite startled, and their bodies felt cold. They understood that the intense battle behind them was simply too terrifying, and it was all for the second King of Kings. Boom! 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 The other domain's experts brought large forces and joined in, causing the battle to become even more intense. However, the situation was not looking good for the protectors because the attackers outnumbered them. The major figures on the viewing platforms hesitated and wondered if they should act or not. Just as the black-clothed middle-aged man had said, with their prestigious statuses, they did not want to stand at the foot of the King of Kings and acknowledge him as their king. As such, They did not want the King of Kings to appear. Of course, if it was their disciple who had appeared as the King of Kings, they would be quite happy. However, it was a stranger who had nothing to do with them, so they did not want to act. However, now that the other domains were bullying the Outlander race, if they did not do anything, it would be too humiliating. Moreover, if the Outlander race lost, they would be suppressed and mocked by the other 7 domains. Moreover, the King of Kings was the Outlander race's hope of rising up. Without him, the Outlander race would have no hope in the future. After thinking for a while, some experts exploded out with terrifying auras and joined the battle, choosing to defend against the invaders. There were naturally those who had liked Zhao Fu before. They had admired Zhao Fu and had wanted to marry their princesses to Zhao Fu. However, they had never thought that Zhao Fu would become the Outlander race's King of Kings. This was completely out of their expectations. This time, they had chosen to stand on Zhao Fu's side and had decided to marry their princesses to Zhao Fu. After all, Zhao Fu was the ruler of the Outlander race in name, and countless Outlander races had to submit to him. Moreover, this would be of great benefit to them, which was why they had chosen to participate and protect the second King of Kings, Zhao Fu. However, some people did not act, but they did not leave either, waiting to see how things would develop. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions sounded out as Outlander 10 College's experts gave off terrifying auras as they appeared. This was their territory, and they had protected the King of Kings' legacy for countless years. If nothing went wrong, they would definitely stand on Zhao Fu's side. Chapter 17:17. This included the gnome elder and serious-looking middle-aged man who did not like Zhao Fu. They looked resolute and decided to protect the Outlander race's hope, the second King of Kings, and they could not allow any harm to come to him. Even though they did not like Zhao Fu's character, Zhao Fu had exceeded their expectations time and time again. Now that Zhao Fu had become the King of Kings, they felt as if they had been conquered and were willing to protect him. As for Zhao Fu's other matters, they did not care at all because Zhao Fu was the ruler of the Outlander race. In front of him, everything else did not matter. Bang, bang, bang. The battle became more and more intense, and terrifying power spread out, sending out intense gales. Sharp light shot everywhere, and space twisted and tore apart, creating a terrifying scene. However, with Outlander 10 College and the experts on the viewing platforms joining in, the defenders were able to suppress the attackers. This made the man in black's expression become quite unsightly, and if this went on, they could only retreat. Boom, boom, boom. The man in black did not worry for too long, and the experts from the other domains gave off powerful auras as they descended and joined in the terrifying battle, causing the two sides to reach a balance. Boom! Suddenly, a massive explosion sounded out as if the heavens and earth were collapsing. An incredibly terrifying shockwave spread out with destructive power, creating long spatial cracks. The people fighting felt quite startled and were affected by the shockwave. They stopped and looked to the sky. Countless rays of intense green starlight shot out from the cracks. An enormous green star giving off a boundless aura slowly descended from the sky. The heavens and earth seemed to sink as a massive pressure descended. The powerful, chaotic, ferocious, and noble aura was incredibly dense, and it flooded out like a flood, easily inundating everything. Countless rays of green starlight flashed past mountains, rivers, cities, grass, and trees, covering the entire world. Countless people stared at the horizon with wide eyes and saw a resplendent azure star appear. Looking at this resplendent star, everyone felt as if their eyes were brimming with tears, and they felt a sense of familiarity from their bloodlines. By now, whether it was the farmers working in the fields, the peddlers on the streets, the ordinary people walking on the streets, or the nobles with prestigious identities, they all understood that the King of Kings' prophecy had been fulfilled and the second King of Kings had descended. Tears of excitement flowed out of everyone's eyes as they knelt on the ground, welcoming the second King of Kings' descent. To them, the King of Kings was a legendary existence, and he was someone worshipped by countless Outlanders. Everyone in the world knew of his name. At that moment, a pillar of green light shot down from the Emperor's star and landed on Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu felt boundless star energy flow into his body, causing his body to heat up and once again go through changes. Within the secret realm, countless people looked at Zhao Fu within the pillar of starlight in shock. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would pull out the King of Kings' sword and become the second King of Kings, and he had awakened the Outlander race's supreme Emperor's star. The elephant person looked incredibly shocked and could not help but gulp. Thinking back to his battle with Zhao Fu, he felt a trace of fear in his heart. He had been fighting with the legendary King of Kings. Yuluowa also looked incredibly shocked. No matter how proud she was, facing Zhao Fu, she felt an urge to lower her head. She felt incredibly powerless, as if Zhao Fu was standing at the peak of a mountain while she was standing at the foot of the mountain. She was deeply subdued. The Ort person started to feel nervous as he stared at the scene in front of him. Zhao Fu had become the King of Kings. This was simply too terrifying. Fortunately, there had not been any conflict between them, or else facing such a terrifying person, his empire would have given up on him. The ogre looked at Zhao Fu in shock and inwardly sighed. No wonder he had such terrifying power. So he was the future King of Kings. Now, he had lost without any resentment. The lion person also looked at Zhao Fu in shock, and massive waves crashed in his heart. He could not calm down for a long time, and his body felt incredibly cold. Fu Baimei stared at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes and could not help but think of what she had said before, saying that her body was only fit for the King of Kings. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would actually become the King of Kings. The dragon person looked quite dispirited. Facing Zhao Fu with his status, he would have to look up to Zhao Fu in the future. The dwarf person felt quite shocked and marveled at Zhao Fu's power. It was simply too terrifying. Now that he had become the King of Kings, he had to take good care of his relationship with him in the future. This could affect his fate in the future. Medusa had wanted to challenge Zhao Fu in the future, but it seemed that she would not have the chance to do so. The distance between the two of them had been pulled to an unbridgeable level, and she could only look up at him without any thoughts. The Sun Elf's expression was quite unsightly. He had never thought that Zhao Fu would become the King of Kings and the ruler of the entire Outlander race. All of this could have belonged to him, but it now belonged to Zhao Fu. The blood-haired young man's eyes widened as he looked at Zhao Fu in shock. Even he had not been able to pull out the sword, but Zhao Fu had done so. This meant that Zhao Fu was more powerful and had more potential than him, and it was the first time that the blood-haired young man had suffered such a mental blow. Zhao Fu did not care about any gazes and focused on absorbing the massive power, causing his body to go through changes and making his bloodline even purer. Boom, 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 terrifying auras descended, causing wild gales to spread out. The various experts once again sensed this, and, at the same time, the Outlander experts quickly gathered over. They were now personally witnessing the Outlander Supreme Emperor Star descend. One by one, the experts stood in the air, exuding a terrifying power as they stared at the green star in the sky. Right now, no one dared to make a move against it, because under such a massive amount of fate, if they were to make a move, they would suffer an unimaginable backlash from the fate. Even half-step immortals might die. They waited for the abnormal signs to end and for the massive amount of fate to dissipate. That would be the time for them to act. Bang, bang, bang. Some people exploded out with powerful power to attack the secret realm, and attacks slammed against the secret realm's barrier, resulting in massive sounds. They wanted to destroy the secret realm's barrier and enter to prevent the second King of Kings from escaping. Chapter 17-18. Boom, boom. The battle between the two sides was extremely intense, and there were even more foreign race and domain experts joining in with powerful auras. This was perhaps the most powerful battle in the past few thousand years, and it was also the most intense one. However, things were not so simple, and even more experts gave off terrifying auras and hurried over. In the end, most of the Heaven Domain's experts arrived, and they all gave off terrifying auras. The space continuously twisted, unable to withstand so many experts descending. The atmosphere became incredibly oppressive, making it difficult for people to breathe. The situation was completely disadvantageous for the Outlander race's side. The experts from the other 7 domains had surrounded the Outlander race's experts. Even though this was the Outlander race's territory, most of the experts from the other 7 domains had come, and they greatly outnumbered the Outlander race. Countless people felt that the Outlander race would not be able to protect the second King of Kings, which was a great pity. After waiting for so many years, the second King of Kings was about to die at the hands of the other 7 domains. On the attacking side, an elder giving off large amounts of demonic chi looked at the Outlander race's experts with his jet-black eyes and said, "Hand over the second King of Kings, or else you'll all die here. In the end, the second King of Kings will still die at our hands." The Outlander race's experts' expressions were quite unsightly. They were facing the experts of the other 7 domains, and they felt immense pressure. It was possible that they would die here. However, were they really going to hand over the second King of Kings? He was the hope that the Outlander race had waited for countless years. If they handed him over, it would be a humiliation that the Outlander race would never be able to wash away. The experts of the 7 domains gave confident smiles. The experts of the 7 domains were working together to pressure the Outlander race's experts, forcing them to hand over the second King of Kings. If they did not hand him over, they would forcefully attack. They would directly kill the second King of Kings and destroy his soul and seal the King of Kings' sword. That way, there would not be a new King of Kings in this world. In actuality, if it wasn't for the fact that this was Outlander 10 College's territory and there were many things that they feared, they would have directly attacked instead of wasting words with them. The atmosphere was incredibly oppressive, and it was as if a world-destroying battle was about to erupt at any moment. The Outlander race's experts' expressions were quite unsightly, and the experts of the 7 domains looked at them with ill intent. Boom! Suddenly, an explosion sounded out as a blood-red starlight spread out in the sky, and an aura of disaster and slaughter flooded out, causing the world to sink into icy terror. A massive blood-red star giving off a terrifying might slowly descended. Many of the experts present were stunned and did not know what was going on. Boom! Another explosion sounded out as countless traces of golden starlight spread out, dyeing the sky golden. An incredibly noble aura that seemed to cause the heavens and earth to submit spread out as a massive golden star giving off terrifying power descended. The faces of all the experts turned into shock when they saw this scene. Huge waves surged in their hearts, but this wasn't the end yet. Boom! 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 Massive explosions continuously sounded out, shaking the surroundings. A gray star giving off a boundless cold and eerie aura, a violet dragon star giving off massive amounts of devil chi, and a black star giving off boundless demonic chi slowly descended from the sky, giving off immense might. The Chaos Imperial Star, Celestial Emperor Star, Nether Emperor Star, Violet Sky Dragon Star, and Demon Lord Star all gave off intense lights that covered the entire world, giving off an aura that seemed to suppress the heavens and earth. The sky became 6 colors, with the 6 Emperor Stars as the main ones. 6 terrifying auras inundated the world, causing all creatures to sink into terror. The second King of Kings was actually the person with 5 Emperor Stars who had caused such a commotion. No, now he has 6 Emperor Stars. How is this possible? It was not just the experts of the 7 domains who looked at the sky in shock. Even the Outlander race's experts were the same. They had never thought that the Outlander race's hope, the second King of Kings, was the person with 5 Emperor Stars. Within the secret realm, the geniuses all looked on in disbelief, including the Sun Elf and the blood-haired young man. The geniuses had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such a terrifying identity. Before, they had been discussing why Zhao Fu did not use his own Emperor Stars. It turned out that he had 5 Emperor Stars. If he used all 5 Emperor Stars, the Sun Elf would most likely be defeated. However, Zhao Fu's identity would also be exposed, and everyone would know that he was that peerless figure with 5 Emperor Stars. This also explained why Zhao Fu had a powerful human race aura and a terrifying demon race aura, as well as the 6 paths of reincarnation power. Those 5 Emperor Stars explained everything. The Sun Elf felt a sense of defeat that he had never felt before. That terrifying battle with Zhao Fu had made him feel that even though he had lost, he would become much stronger in the future and that he would definitely be able to defeat Zhao Fu. However, that had all been an illusion. Zhao Fu had not used his true power and had only used his body's power. If he had summoned 5 Emperor Stars, he would definitely have lost. Now, Zhao Fu not only had 5 Emperor Stars, but also an Outlander Emperor Star, and had the King of Kings sword. The Sun Elf felt a sense of despair. Facing an unsurpassable despair, all of his hard work and talents seemed to be trash. No one could compare to him, and it was the first time the Sun Elf had admitted that he was inferior to someone. The blood-haired young man also looked quite shocked. He had never thought that there would be such a terrifying person in the Heaven-Awakened world. Zhao Fu now had 6 Emperor Stars, and 5 of them were the supreme Emperor Stars of the 5 races. No wonder he had lost to him. He was completely convinced. This matter was also of great importance. That person was definitely hiding a heaven-shaking secret. When he returned, he would properly tell his master about this person. He was simply too terrifying. Even in the Holy Empire, if such a person appeared, it would cause a huge commotion. Before, his big brother had looked down on everyone in the Heaven-Awakened world, and now that such a terrifying person had appeared, he would definitely be greatly shocked. This person would become his big brother's most powerful opponent. Thinking about that, the blood-haired young man smiled. It was time to go back and deal a blow to his arrogant big brother. Chapter 17-19. Countless experts raised their heads in a daze, their eyes wide open as they looked at the sky. The battle had stopped for some reason, and the surroundings had also fallen into silence. Cough, cough. Seeing the familiar Demon Lord star, the Demon Emperor Sect Master Di Zhang lightly coughed and said, "I feel that there's no need to kill the second King of Kings. We can discuss this." Di Zhang's daughter, Di Moji, was in Zhao Fu's harem, so he naturally stood on Zhao Fu's side. At the same time, he felt quite shocked. His son-in-law was simply too terrifying. Not only had he caused such a huge commotion in the demon domain, but he had also caused an even bigger commotion in the Outlander domain. Who knew how many experts were hurrying over? What's more, it was not just 5 Emperor Stars, but 6 Emperor Stars, and he had become the second King of Kings, the ruler of the Outlander race. As a father-in-law, he felt quite ashamed in front of his son-in-law. I also feel that there's no need to be in such a rush. Let's discuss this before dealing with it, a beautiful middle-aged woman said as she stepped out and smiled. She was Yuan Ziyuan's mother, and because of Yuan Ziyuan, she stood on Zhao Fu's side. At the same time, she felt quite shocked. Just what kind of man had her daughter found to be her husband? He was simply too terrifying. Even though he was weak now, thinking about his future potential, she felt that he was simply too insignificant. Some of the factions related to the demon race, as well as those related to Zhao Fu, naturally stood on Zhao Fu's side. After all, they knew who Zhao Fu was, so they all said, "Don't be so rash. Let's discuss this matter." This made everyone feel quite speechless. It was clearly the demon race who had been the most ferocious, and the battle had been incredibly intense. Why were they saying not to be so rash now? A cold-looking woman from the Devil Domain's Dragon Imperial Palace gave off a powerful aura as she walked out and said, "I also feel that there's no need to be in a rush to kill that person." Everyone was stunned, and they all turned to look at the cold woman. Why did someone from the Devil region also stand out to speak? In actuality, The Dragon Imperial Palace's people had been looking for Zhao Fu this entire time. After all, Zhao Fu had obtained the 10,000 Dragons legacy and was the legatee of the Dragon Imperial Palace's 9th Palace Lord. Not only did he have the Dragon Imperial bloodline, but he had also awakened the Violet Sky Dragon Star. Logically speaking, Zhao Fu was part of the Dragon Imperial Palace. The Cold Woman had never imagined that the 9 Dragons Emperor's successor, whom she had been searching for all this time, would be found so easily. What shocked her even more was that the successor Old 9 had found was truly terrifying. If he could become the Dragon Emperor Palace's Hall Master, he would definitely have many supporters. Moreover, the Dragon Emperor Palace would receive unimaginable benefits. According to the agreement between the 9 of them, Zhao Fu, the successor of the 9 Dragons Emperor, was qualified to become the Dragon Hall Master. The Dragon Emperor Palace was one of the most powerful factions in the Devil Domain, and since she stood out to speak, some other experts from the Devil Domain also stood out and said, "We also feel that there's no need to be in a hurry to kill that second King of Kings. We still need to discuss this matter." Everyone could not help but curse inwardly. Just then, the Devil race had been fighting just as ferociously as the Demon race, wanting to rush in and blast that person to pieces. Why did the situation change so quickly? A horned man with a pale face gave off ghostly chi as he eerily laughed. "I also feel that there's no need to be in a hurry to kill that person. He has our Death Race's Supreme Emperor Star and the Underworld's Supreme Six Paths Demon Image's bloodline, so he has a great connection to our Death Race." An elderly man giving off ghostly chi said in agreement, "I also feel that it's like that. We can't just casually kill someone who has such a connection to our Death Race." Some people from the Death Race also stood out and said, "That makes sense. Since he has such a great connection to our Death Race, perhaps he's also one of us. We feel that we should clarify this matter first before deciding how to deal with him." Everyone felt quite startled. Why was the Death Race also speaking up? Moreover, they were saying that they should not be in a hurry to kill the second King of Kings, and that they should deal with him after clarifying things. On the human domain side, a light laugh sounded out as the human Phoenix Empire's ruler, Feng Xianhuang, said, "In actuality, I also feel that we shouldn't be in a hurry to kill that boy. After all, he has our human race's celestial Emperor Star. We can't let him die for nothing." Feng Xianhuang lightly smiled, but she felt quite shocked inwardly. Her daughter's judgment was not simple at all. She had actually taken a liking to such a terrifying man. Moreover, she had long since sensed that this person would definitely become a peerless figure who could shake the heaven-awakened world. It seemed that her daughter's feelings were not wrong at all. She had greatly underestimated that person. It was a pity that her daughter had caught him back then, but he had escaped in the end. If her daughter had taken this boy as a concubine back then, the benefits to the human Phoenix Empire would have been delirious with joy. The Sword Sect Master also stepped out and gave a trace of a smile as he said, "I think so too. I think we shouldn't be in a hurry to kill him. Let's talk to the second King of Kings first before dealing with him." Now, the Sword Sect Master felt quite delighted. The Sword Sect had been searching for this person with the celestial slaying sword intent for a long time, and he was finally going to see just what kind of terrifying figure he was. In the past, his daughter had described how extraordinary this person was, and even though he had been quite shocked back then, he was quite shocked now. He had never thought that after such a short period of time, he would be able to cause such terrifying ripples. His daughter had always been thinking about that celestial slaying sword intent, and if the two of them were suitable, they could consider being together. Thinking about that, the Sword Sect Master could not help but smile. Some people from the human domain also stepped out and said the same thing. Back when the Celestial Emperor Star had awakened, many people had been searching for this person. Now that they had finally found him, he was most likely from the human race. If the human race had such a terrifying genius, the benefits to the human domain would be unimaginable. As such, they naturally could not bear to kill this person with heaven-defying potential. The Outlander race also looked quite dumbfounded. They had never thought that the Demon race, Death race, devil race, and human race would send people to help them. This made them feel incredibly surprised and delighted. Perhaps they would be able to keep their second king of kings. Moreover, they were also quite shocked. The second king of kings was the person with 5 emperor stars. If he became the second king of kings and led the Outlander race, it would be difficult for the Outlander race not to rise up. When that time came, the Outlander race would truly be at its most glorious, and they might even surpass the first king of kings era. Chapter 17:20. If it was not for the fact that he had a pure Outlander bloodline, they would not have been able to accept him. After all, as the king of kings of the Outlander race, he had to have a pure Outlander bloodline. Moreover, they were not sure what kind of attitude this king of kings had towards the Outlander race. The Outlander race was quite dumbfounded, but the God race, Water race, and Spirit race were even more dumbfounded. Out of the Heaven Awakened world's 8 major races, 5 of them had come out to protect that person, and they all seemed to have some sort of relationship with him. Now, only the 3 major races had no relationship with Zhao Fu, and that person did not have their Emperor stars. However, from the looks of it, that person would most likely awaken the God race's Emperor star, Water race's Emperor star, and Spirit race's Emperor star. When that time came, that person would have 8 races' Emperor stars, and adding on his Fate star, he would have 9 Emperor stars in total. Just thinking about it was quite terrifying. There were some people who spoke up for Zhao Fu, but they were in the minority. Most people had come to kill the threat that was Zhao Fu. Moreover, Zhao Fu had piqued their interest, and they wanted to obtain all sorts of secrets from Zhao Fu. They were now even more determined to kill Zhao Fu. A ferocious-looking big man loudly laughed. Since you all agree not to be in a hurry to kill, I agree as well. However, shouldn't we destroy that barrier first so that that person can't escape? The other experts all agreed with this. Right now, the only thing that was protecting them was the barrier. Without the barrier, if so many people charged in, the Outlander race would not be able to stop them at all. When that time came, they would completely lose control, and no one would be able to stop them from doing anything. They could kill or not kill, or even plunder with a single thought. As such, they wanted to destroy the barrier and control that person's life and death. Di Jiang understood what these people were thinking. Once the barrier was destroyed, he would not be able to stop anything, so he smiled and said, I feel that it's best to wait outside. This is Outlander 10 College's territory, and we're not giving Outlander 10 College any face by doing this. Feng Qianhuang lightly laughed as she said, I feel that it should be so. Outlander 10 College is one of the 7 great colleges and is the oldest college, so we should respect it. As such, we should wait here for the signs to dissipate and that person to come out. At this moment, Feng Qianhuang was thinking of letting Zhao Fu off this time. Once the barrier was broken, Zhao Fu would definitely die. The cold-looking woman with dragon horns also said coldly, I agree. We shouldn't offend Outlander 10 College too much. Let's wait for that person to come out first. The cold-looking woman also decided to let Zhao Fu off for now. After all, with so many people rushing in, even she would be unable to protect Zhao Fu. As such, she could only let Zhao Fu escape. Perhaps she would be able to see him again in the future. Perhaps because of inheritance, he would go to the Yao realm one day and stand in front of her on his own accord. She wouldn't have to spend so much effort to find him. The ferocious-looking man sneered. Why didn't I see you guys being respectful just now? What are you pretending for now? Everyone, let's break the barrier together. Boom! Boom! Massive explosions sounded out as the experts did not hesitate and exploded out with immense power, ferociously attacking the barrier. Some people also acted to block, and a battle once again unfolded. On the side of the attackers, they definitely had a huge advantage in terms of numbers. Some of them would pin down the defenders, while others would attack the secret realm's barrier with great power. Bang! Bang! Terrifying attacks blasted against the defensive barrier, causing it to slightly tremble. The defensive barrier that protected the King of Kings' sword was quite powerful, and facing the terrifying attacks of so many experts, it only slightly trembled. If it was an ordinary defensive barrier, it would have long since been shattered. However, the experts continuously blasted the barrier with terrifying power, causing it to tremble more and more. If this went on, the barrier would shatter sooner or later. At that moment, the 6 emperor stars in the sky gradually disappeared, and the abnormal signs in the surroundings calmed down as the heavens and earth returned to normal. Zhao Fu, who was holding the King of Kings sword, returned to normal and woke up from that massive transformation. He slowly opened his eyes and shot out a ray of green light, and a green pupil appeared in his eyes. Adding on the green pupil in his left eye, there were 10 pupils in total, and the cross-shaped pupil in his right eye had an extra layer of green. In the distance, countless people looked at Zhao Fu in shock. It was now completely silent, and no one made a sound. Zhao Fu did not have time to pay attention to them, because through the Emperor's stars, Zhao Fu understood what was going on outside. The most important thing now was to escape from here. Zhao Fu did not plan to bring anyone else, as that would only make things more dangerous. When that time came, none of them would be able to escape. Luckily, he had left the others to the Dragon Princess and Elf Princess, and they would take care of everything. Zhao Fu did not have to worry about them, and his biggest problem now was how to escape from here. Zhao Fu suddenly remembered that he still had a teleportation medallion. As long as he used it, even higher beings would not be able to stop him, and he should be able to escape from here. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu grinned and took out the teleportation medallion. Just as he was about to use it, he found that he could not use it, causing Zhao Fu to feel quite startled. Following this, Zhao Fu thought of the reason. It was most likely that the battle between the countless experts outside the secret realm was simply too terrifying, causing the surrounding space to fall into chaos and collapse. The combined power was simply unimaginable. As such, Zhao Fu's teleportation medallion, which even higher beings could not stop, could not be used at all, as it could not break through the destroyed region. What should he do now? Zhao Fu felt quite startled as he watched the defensive barrier tremble more and more. Soon, countless experts would charge in, and even if Zhao Fu had 1,000 lives, he would not be able to survive. Bang! 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 Massive explosions once again sounded out as terrifying attacks continuously blasted against the defensive barrier, causing powerful gales to spread out and give off destructive power. Kacha! A clear sound rang out as a small crack appeared on the secret realm's barrier. Zhao Fu's expression became quite unsightly, and he did not know what to do next. Sensing the auras attacking the defensive barrier, the countless geniuses in the surroundings looked quite unsightly. They did not know what was going on, but they knew that there was a large group of terrifying experts continuously attacking the defensive barrier. Chapter 17:21. Moreover, even if it was not for that reason, just those 6 Emperor stars would cause countless experts to charge in, wanting to capture Zhao Fu and ask him about the shocking secrets within. The Sun Elf and blood-haired young man tactfully distanced themselves from Zhao Fu. In front of so many terrifying experts, they were powerless, and it was possible that they would die here. The other 9 geniuses looked at Zhao Fu with pity and quickly left. They did not have the power to change anything, and if those experts died, their factions would not be able to escape justice. Bang! 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 Massive sounds continuously sounded out as the experts continued to use terrifying power to attack the barrier. Shocking auras spread out, and more cracks appeared on the barrier. It seemed that they would soon be able to break through the barrier. Zhao Fu's heart sank, and he could not think of a way to escape. Seeing that more and more cracks appeared on the secret realm, the experts grinned and attacked the barrier even more ferociously. At that moment, within a room in the depths of Outlander 10 College, a silver-haired elder slowly opened his deep, white eyes and looked ahead. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything, and nothing could stop it. Countless experts' bodies froze and felt a chill in their hearts, as if there was an incredibly terrifying monster looking at them. That person looked at these people and slowly raised his hand and pressed it against the ground. a massive magic formation appeared, and a terrifying ripple spread out. Boom, boom, boom. Heaven-shaking explosions sounded out as the 34 statues at the entrance gave off intense 10-colored lights and exploded out with terrifying auras, creating massive gales. Bang, bang, bang. Rays of rainbow-colored light shot out from the 34 statues, giving off terrifying power as they shot into the sky. Massive explosions sounded out as they formed 34 rainbow-colored pillars of light that stood between the heavens and the earth. Boundless heaven and earth power continuously gathered and flowed into the 34 pillars of light. The 34 pillars of light quickly moved and surrounded the countless experts, and a terrifying sealing power spread out, seeming to turn the heavens and earth into a cage. Countless cultivators could only feel a terrifying force restraining their bodies, making it impossible for them to move. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked and understood who had acted. Someone with such power was definitely Outlander 10 College's most powerful expert, the Dean of Outlander 10 College. They were the existences that countless people feared the most. However, since the experts dared to act, they had made some preparations. They did not believe that the headmaster would be able to seal so many experts by himself. After all, they were either higher beings or people who were close to becoming higher beings. They immediately joined forces and burst forth with terrifying power. It resisted the powerful sealing power. Outlander 10 College's dean's expression did not change at all, and an unimaginably massive power flowed into the magic formation below him. Boom! An even more terrifying sealing power landed on the bodies of the countless experts, causing their bodies to sink. The countless experts also exploded out with even more terrifying power. Aura flames blazed, seeming as if they could destroy the heavens and earth. At that moment, an ancient voice sounded out in Zhao Fu's mind. Hurry up and use the medallion to leave. I can't suppress them for too long, and some truly terrifying people are hurrying over. Hearing this, even though Zhao Fu did not know who the elder was, he understood that this person was helping him. He felt delighted and thanked him before using the teleportation medallion. The teleportation medallion gave off boundless silver light that covered Zhao Fu's body, and he turned into a ray of silver light that shot into the sky before disappearing. Seeing the silver light disappear, the countless experts felt quite startled and felt quite furious. They understood that that person had escaped under the protection of Outlander 10 College's dean. However, in the end, they were unable to do anything to Outlander 10 College's dean because he was most likely a half-step celestial. Moreover, this was Outlander 10 College's territory and had Outlander 10 College's magic formation. If they had really fought, many of them would have died here. Since that person had escaped, there was no need for them to continue fighting. Afterwards, some truly terrifying figures descended, causing them to choose to leave as soon as possible. Otherwise, staying here would be quite dangerous. Those terrifying figures were people who stood at the very peak and had existed for countless years. Even higher beings like them felt quite fearful of them. After those truly terrifying figures descended, an incredibly terrifying battle erupted. It was even more terrifying than a world-destroying battle, following which everything calmed down. As for the details of the battle, not many people knew because ordinary higher beings would not be able to participate in that battle, which showed just how terrifying it was. The teleportation medallion gave off boundless silver light that covered Zhao Fu's body and flashed past countless worlds before turning into motes of light and dissipating. Zhao Fu directly arrived in the central domain. He had no idea how many worlds he had passed in an instant. The teleportation medallion's effects were quite powerful. After successfully escaping, Zhao Fu let out a sigh of relief. However, Zhao Fu did not stay here and flew for a while. Only after confirming that he was safe did he relax and take out the golden sword. Even though Zhao Fu had pulled out the sword, he had only obtained some basic information about it, which was that it was called the King of Kings' Sword. As for its other abilities and information, Zhao Fu did not know. He needed to continuously activate this sword's power. Zhao Fu was not from the Outlander race and had never heard of the legend of the King of Kings, so he did not know the complete information about this sword. However, thinking about it, it was most likely not simple. After all, this was a sword that even the possessor of an Emperor's Star and the Outlander race's holy sun could not pull out. If he could activate its power, it would be able to destroy the heavens and earth and would surpass countless people's imaginations. After looking at the King of Kings sword closely, Zhao Fu put it away and went to a kingdom. After asking around about this sword, he was shocked to find just how terrifying the King of Kings sword was. At the same time, Zhao Fu asked people to bring some information to the women in the Outlander domain. Apart from the Dragon Princess and the others, Zhao Fu had left many women there, including Hu Shan, Niu Luyan, and a group of centaur guards. They were most likely waiting for him there. Zhao Fu had already come to the central domain and naturally would not go back. As such, he told them to come to him while he waited for them in the central domain. Chapter 17:22. Husband, you're so powerful. You became our Outlander race's King of Kings. We can't help but worship and respect you, Niu Luyan said as she gave a beautiful smile. I was the first to meet husband, and I knew from the start that husband would become a major figure whose name shook the world. Hu Shan hugged Zhao Fu as she flirtatiously smiled. That's right. Thinking about how our husband is the King of Kings, it's such an honor for us to be able to serve him every day. How much luck does this require? We're simply too lucky, Liu Yu said happily as she stood beside Zhao Fu. The centaur guards looked at Zhao Fu with respect and excitement. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would become the second King of Kings. The centaur prince felt quite shocked. Back then, his ancestor and father had wanted him to become Zhao Fu's slave, and he had been very unwilling. Even though Zhao Fu had a divine bloodline, he had not been willing. Now, Zhao Fu had become an untouchable figure, and he was the ruler of the Outlander race in name. He did not have any complaints, and he had already accepted his status as a slave. At the same time, he sighed in amazement. His ancestor's vision was quite terrifying, knowing that Zhao Fu was such a terrifying person. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "All right, I'll take you back to my empire. Now, I will bring you back to my empire. However, perhaps everything is different from what you think. I am actually just the emperor of a small country at the border, not someone from some mysterious empire." These words caused everyone to feel quite startled. They had never thought of Zhao Fu's true identity. However, they quickly smiled. No matter what, they were determined to follow Zhao Fu and would not be able to leave Zhao Fu. In the end, Zhao Fu brought everyone back to Qin City after a week or so, concluding this trip to the Outlander domain. Zhao Fu's gains from the other world were quite good. First of all, there were the goddesses. There was the Wolfman goddess, the Orc goddess, the Naga goddess, the Centaur goddess, the Pigman goddess, the Chicken goddess, and the Monkey goddess. There were 7 goddesses in total, and adding on the 12 from before, Zhao Fu was only 5 away from opening the godly spirit door. In actuality, the 12 races related to the Chinese zodiac were rat, ox, tiger, rabbit, dragon, snake, horse, sheep, monkey, rooster, dog, and pig. Zhao Fu had already gathered the women of the 12 races, but he wanted to find the 12 goddesses that corresponded to them. Right now, only the Naga goddess, Centaur goddess, Pigman goddess, Chicken goddess, and Monkey goddess were among the 12 zodiac gods. There were still 7 other zodiac gods, and perhaps he would collect them all in the future. Apart from the goddess sword, there was also the 10,000 flower beauty spring and the stage 8 Splendor Knight silver dragon. Adding on the medicinal pills and heavenly kingdom protection, as well as the precious King of Kings sword, Zhao Fu felt that he had not obtained much this time. However, all of them were incredibly precious, and they made up for the lack of numbers. This was especially so for the King of Kings sword. If he used its power to deal with Outlanders, it would be invincible, and it was the most precious thing this time. Zhao Fu first went to the flower region, where there were countless types of flowers: red, yellow, green, and black. Tens of thousands of flowers vied with each other, forming a boundless sea of flowers. The air was filled with the fragrance of flowers, and adding on the blue sky, white clouds, and colorful butterflies, this place was as beautiful as a celestial realm. This place could bring out the full effects of the 10,000 flower beauty spring, and Zhao Fu had come here to build the 10,000 flower beauty spring. Zhao Fu first dug out a 100-meter wide and dozens of meters deep pit. The ground and walls were made of jade, and there were runes inscribed on them, gathering large amounts of flower power. There were also exquisite statues around the pit. All of the statues were of women, and they were incredibly lifelike. Not only did they look good, but they also protected the 10,000 flower beauty spring. Zhao Fu went to the bottom of the spring and took out the mouth of the spring and placed it at the center. The mouth of the spring gradually sank into the ground, and the runes on the jade stones were all activated, and the flower power in the surroundings flowed into the spring. A clear spring water, giving off a dense flower fragrance, started to gush out from the ground, and Zhao Fu flew to the surface. The spring water continuously flowed out and filled the surroundings. "Yi, is it done?" Zhao Fu's 12 beautiful madams asked Zhao Fu with a trace of anticipation. As women, they valued the 10,000 flower beauty spring greatly, and they hoped that they could become more beautiful. Moreover, even though Zhao Fu had told them his real name, they still liked to call him Mo Yi because this name had a special meaning to them. As for the reason, there was no need to explain. Zhao Fu smiled as he replied, "It's done now. Madams, go down and see the effects." The 12 madams smiled and nodded before taking off their clothes and entering the spring. They immediately felt a mystical energy nourishing their bodies, and they happily smiled. The flower fairy stayed by Zhao Fu's side, and Zhao Fu smiled as he brought her into his embrace and asked, "Why don't you go down and try the effects of the 10,000 flower beauty spring?" The flower fairy looked a bit shy as she replied, "As a flower fairy, the spring water's effects are quite weak on me. Also, why didn't you bring back any wondrous flowers this time?" Zhao Fu said apologetically, "I didn't find any wondrous flowers when I went to the Outlander domain. Also, the Heaven Awakened world has 7 wondrous flowers, and each one corresponds to a race. The Outlander race doesn't seem to have any wondrous flowers. So the 8th wondrous flower you mentioned is the wondrous flower of the Outlander race, right?" The flower fairy smiled as she replied, "The Outlander race's wondrous flower is something that almost no one has ever seen before. So many people don't know about it. They think that the Heaven Awakened world only has 7 wondrous flowers and not 8. This wondrous flower is called the King God Golden Flower. It's a flower that seems to be made of gold, and it has a very powerful king's power. Also, if you plant on the ground will turn into gold. Moreover, this power can spread and turn an entire world into gold." Zhao Fu could not help but lightly laugh. To ordinary people, this kind of flower was a priceless treasure. When the time came, they would have an inexhaustible supply of gold. It was like a city of gold in the world. It was something that countless people dreamed of. However, Zhao Fu was not very interested in this. The main reason he collected the wondrous flowers was to help the flower fairy recover her power. If Qin had another celestial, Zhao Fu would be the happiest thing. Following this, Zhao Fu left the flower domain and found a spacious place to put the Stage 8 Splendor Knight Silver Dragon Denver. Chapter 1723. If Zhao Fu fused the City Lord seal into it, the Stage 8 Splendor Knight Silver Dragon would be more powerful than ordinary Stage 9 dragons. It was a pity that the city's stats were continuously weakening, and the City Lord Seal's power had greatly decreased. Otherwise, with the City Lord Seal's power, if it was fused into a Stage 8 dragon, it would be able to challenge Stage 9 elite dragons. Zhao Fu placed the den in his hand, which was the silver dragon statue, and chose to use it. Boom! The statue exploded out with a powerful aura and gave off boundless silver light. It floated up from Zhao Fu's hand and floated in front of Zhao Fu. Countless traces of silver liquid flowed out and formed an octagonal, 3-meter-tall silver stage. The statue floated at the center of the stage, and silver light flashed as a 600-meter-long dragon appeared. It spread its silver wings and gave a massive roar, causing a wild gale to blow. This silver dragon was just like the statue. It had silver-white scales, long and sharp horns, and a pair of black gem-like eyes. It had a pair of large silver wings, a pair of sharp claws, 6 toes, and a long and slender tail. It gave off an incredibly powerful dragon's might, causing people to feel a chill and their bodies to uncontrollably tremble. Looking at the powerful Splendor Knight silver dragon, Zhao Fu smiled. If it could be developed into something like the wyverns, it would be a great force for Qin. Zhao Fu left the matters here to someone else and did not have to manage them himself. After taking care of these matters, Zhao Fu returned to Qin's palace. Everyone in Qin had long since heard that Zhao Fu had returned, and they all looked delighted because their king, the ruler of the Qin Empire, had returned. The ministers and generals all looked excited, but also respectfully waited outside the palace. Zhao Fu put on his black dragon robe, put on his black dragon crown, and sat on his throne. Court began. Many of the officials entered the hall and bowed in unison. Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile as he said, "We've been gone for so long. Has anything big happened in Qin?" The ministers and generals went up and reported what had happened in Qin while Zhao Fu was gone. Zhao Fu left the internal affairs to Li Si, and during this period of time, he had done many things. The first was to hold an imperial examination to select talents from various races to serve Qin. They had also dug a few large rivers to make transportation more convenient, and they had countless tributaries that could be used to irrigate crops. They also encouraged production, and all of the food and vegetables that they grew belonged to them instead of Great Qin. This encouraged the residents to grow more food. Now that the production attribute had disappeared, food became the most important issue for a kingdom. Of course, Great Qin collected some taxes. This was the same in other areas. They strengthened the commoners and the various professions. They also encouraged the commoners to interact with the various industries. They also encouraged the commoners to communicate. They also encouraged the commoners to trade. There were also representatives from various regions who gathered together to ask the imperial court all sorts of questions and express the thoughts of the commoners. Great Qin naturally placed great importance on this, and they had good solutions to these problems. This was all thanks to Li Si and the various ministers and generals' efforts, and Zhao Fu gave them appropriate praise and rewards. There were also a few big movements in the military. During the time that Zhao Fu had been away, no kingdoms had attacked. Whether it was the Devil Horn Empire or the Second Wind God Empire, they had both done their best to develop their factions and stabilize their rule. They had also started a few battles against the outside world, and they were now kingdoms with 9 worlds. They were only one away from becoming a royal kingdom. Now, the population and military strength of these 2 kingdoms had greatly increased, and their strength had become incredibly terrifying, causing the surrounding kingdoms to feel quite afraid. However, even though Zhao Fu was not in Qin, Zhao Fu did not fall behind them. Under Bai Qi's leadership, they had conquered a world. Because Zhao Fu understood that going to the Outlander domain would take a long time, he gave Bai Qi and Li Si great authority. They could take care of all matters for Zhao Fu and make all decisions. They could be said to be below only one person in Qin and above tens of thousands of people. Of course, it was mainly because Zhao Fu trusted them the most that he had given them such great authority. Bai Qi saw that the 2 kingdoms were rapidly developing, and Qin had finished digesting the worlds that they had conquered. He gathered all of the ministers and generals to discuss and made the decision to attack another world. Bai Qi was the one to carry out the decision. With Qin's current strength, as long as they did not ally together and the other 2 kingdoms did not participate, they would be able to easily destroy a world. The world that Qin had destroyed was called the Sante world. It was a world with many mountains, making it very difficult to move around. Many large mountains blocked the way and were quite difficult to cross. It had taken Qin quite a bit of effort to conquer it. The people living in that world were called the Sante people. They were ordinary humans with Western faces and tall figures. Because they lived in the mountains and often dealt with wild beasts, they were all quite ferocious. When Qin had invaded the Sante world, the Sante people had taken advantage of their familiarity with the geography and tried to stop Qin's invasion. Faced with such complicated terrain and the Sante people's obstruction, it would not have been easy to conquer the Sante world with ordinary soldiers. They would have had to spend some time and effort, and they would have suffered more losses. However, Qin did not use ordinary soldiers to attack. Instead, he directly attacked the Beast Army and Masanori Hanno and the Devil Army. With their abilities, the complicated terrain did not affect them much. Instead, it was beneficial to them. This was the effect of having many different types of soldiers. The beasts and devils were even more ferocious and evil than ordinary Qin soldiers. Qin would not stop them, and they had caused a few terrifying massacres. The beasts were fine, as they only fed on humans. Apart from looking bloody and cruel and leaving behind some corpses, the dead did not feel much pain. However, the devils were obviously much more twisted and perverted. The devils also fed on humans. Some liked to peel off the skin and eat the bloody flesh. Some liked to cut open a person's stomach and dig out the organs. Some liked to eat the eyes. They would dig out a person's eyes and eat them, then cut them into pieces. Furthermore, no one was spared. When a group of monsters attacked a village or a city, not a single person would be spared. There would not be any living beings left. The villages would become dead villages, and the cities would become dead cities. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.